Hey, I'm Randy Younger, New York City's go-to film enthusiast. Every week I dive deep into the world of cinema with special guests from the New York City film scene. Whether I'm interviewing industry insiders or comparing the latest releases, there's always something for every movie lover. Join me as I explore the magic of film and discover what makes these movies unforgettable. Hey guys, I'm Randy Younger, and this is Under the Radar, bringing movies and people together one frame at a time. And as you can see, we have a very stacked group of film critic guests today. We are here for one main reason, and is basically to celebrate the life and career of the great actor Gene Hackman, who left us about a month ago. And I wanted to prepare this episode. I know we're a little late, but better late than never. And, I just wanted to go through some of his greatest hits, so to speak, some of his classic films over the 4 decade career that he had. He was an actor's actor. He was respected throughout the entertainment community. He could play a hero, a villain, everything in between. And he never phoned it in. He always gave a strong performance in everything. If it was from something like The French Connection all the way to Welcome to Mooseport, he always gave it his all. And he was really just a really special actor. And I had a great time the past couple weeks, just revisiting some of his classics and discovering some of his smaller gems, which we're all going to discuss today. And just real quick before we go, up his filmography from 1961 to 2004. Just want to go around and get some, first impressions, overall impressions of Gene, what you thought about his career and how he impacted you. So, Tyler, I'll start with you if you want to start. You're right here.
Well,
By the way, Tyler Michael, Ernest Salick, we got Brian Smith, and we got through Zoom, we've got Erica A, and of course, Rachel Colbin, Eric Godfrey. So, welcome to the show, guys.
well, thing about Gene Hackman that I've always admired about him as an actor is you mentioned this in the intro, but I'll say this anyway. He's a very versatile actor. He can do any genre. He can be dramatic. He can be hilarious. He can be humble. He could be the sickest person you've ever seen on film. He could be comical. He could be campy. He could be just dead serious. He is just an amazing actor through and through. And quite frankly, I've taken him for granted because I know he's an amazing actor, but I never sat down and thought about how amazing he is, how well-rounded he is as an actor, which I feel is very difficult for most actors to do.
I didn't realize his greatness till sadly until he passed, and it just really amplified his greatness. And it wanted me to check out everything. It still makes me want to check out everything he's done. And he really, every performance is just, always a strong, well-rounded performance. So yeah. Ernest, how about you? First impressions?
Oh, man, you know what? My first encounter with Gene Hackman is easy. I would say Superman. As a child, you see Gene Hackman and he's Lex Luthor and he's like Superman's enemy. And then you see him in other movies growing up, and you're like, you just know him as Lex Luthor, and then you come to know him as so much more. And it's like how Tyler said, he has incredible range and personability about him. And even like when he does a lot of those like patriotic, like let's say Army or Navy roles, like we'll talk about Crimson Tide later.
Yes.
He has like this stern righteousness about him, stern but righteous at the same time. He's very likable, and I think one of his strengths was that he was always very down to earth, as both a human being and as actor.
Very authoritative and also very down to earth. I agree with you. So you could play an everyman, an average Joe, or a submarine commander, or a president, a politician.
Certainly.
It was crazy. His range was really impressive, I must say.
Which I want to just add one thing personally. The first time I ever recognized Gene Hackman, when I didn't even know it was him, was in Young Frankenstein, when he played the blind hermit.
Right.
To this day, I still can't believe that's him. He plays it so perfectly. It's a great reimagining of the original Blind Hermit from Bride of Frankenstein. And then when I saw him as Popeye Doyle in The French Connection, I just could not put two and two together.
I know.
He's an incredible actor.
He was so versatile, and his filmography is reflective of that talent. Brian, how about yourself? Your overall impression of Gene?
Yeah, overall impression, I agree with you guys in terms of the versatility and just every role. He just brings a grounded nature to his character. I mean, especially looking at when you're talking about the Superman movies, Superman 1 and 2, especially, when there's all this sort of fantastical stuff going around, he's sort of like the everyman. He's the villain, but he's the everyman, sort of relatable audience surrogate, who's like sort of commenting and snarkily making little, comments that the audience might be thinking about while things are happening. So you're always sort of plugged into him as an actor, and just his range, is just really just impressive. You just put his name Hackman on a poster and know who you're talking about. He's in that Nicholson group, but he's not. It's not like where you're watching a Gene Hackman movie or like a Nicholson movie where you think, oh yeah, that's Jack Nicholson playing a role. This is Gene Hackman embodying that character that he's playing and just doing a great job. So.
And he came about, excuse me, in the 60s. He made it big with Bonnie and Clyde, 1967, which is basically the start of the new Hollywood. And he was in this amazing group of great actors at the time. You had Nicholson, Dustin Hoffman, Robert Duvall. They were kind of like the bad boys of Hollywood at that time.
Yeah, and if I can jump in real quick, you bring up Dustin Hoffman, and of course, the story about the fact that they both met each other, that they met working at the Pasadena Playhouse. When they were in acting school, and the fact that Gene Hackman was actually expelled. I think Dustin Hoffman was as well for not having talent. So I believe that they moved out to New York actually, and were still pursuing acting, which really tells you, I mean, like considering that all of you have said versatile and just talked about how amazing of an actor he is, it's like just because one place tells you no or says that you don't have talent doesn't mean that's true. So
perseverance. And I think they were voted by their classmates and the teachers as least likely to succeed.
Correct.
Wow. Exactly.
and then they have like 5 Oscars between the two of them.
How's that karma?
Yeah, it's crazy. Erica, overall impressions of Gene?
Well, I mean, I think that I look at him starting out in my own lifetime, and yet he had such a long career, like you said, through the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and through the 90s until the 2000s when he had to retire. But there are just so many things from little roles to major starring roles to co-starring roles that were just not quite recognizable, but more something that you don't recognize him. And that's what makes it so interesting. That he can just become the role.
Yeah.
And that was something he was good at, in my opinion.
Yeah. A true actor. And I mean, he was recognizable in a lot of his roles.
Sure.
I was going to say about 50-50, but sometimes he can just fade into the role.
Right.
And you only see the character of the story.
Yeah.
It was weird because he always looked the same, but his characters were always very different. And like we mentioned that he can do a good guy and a bad guy almost seamlessly. And we're going to talk about a couple of his villainous roles, especially from the 90s, which was great. Because I think the older he got, the more villainous he kind of got. But still an extremely likable guy. I wish I never got to meet him or interview him. That would have been incredible. But
even though his name is Hackman, he was no hack.
That's true.
Oh yeah,
nicely
100%.
put. Nicely put.
Good point.
So, all right. So maybe we should start with the filmography here, and it's a lot. I think it's like over 100 entries in his IMDb page. But I just wanted to do the greatest hits, so to speak.
Amen.
And I had a really good time going back and watching some of these movies. A lot of them I've never even heard of, and I'm so glad I got to find out about them. And I basically assigned all of you guys just one movie to talk about. And as we go up the list up until 2004, your assigned film will come up and we're going to just talk about it all.
Got you.
But I wanted to start off with 1961. He did a movie called Mad Dog Cole, which was not very good, I must say. He had a very, very small part. It was like a 5-minute scene. He plays a policeman. And this movie is basically the rise and fall of a crime boss by the name of Mad Dog Cole, and he plays the police officer in one scene. It wasn't really worth my time. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, but he didn't have any lines in that. but I was still curious to see him in that. He was like 30 years old. It was very interesting. He looks the
Wow.
same as he does as he did like in the 90s.
Mhm.
So it's very funny. We're gonna fast forward so what 3 years to 1964. He did a movie called Lilith, and this was a strange movie starring Warren Beatty as a young man who takes a job at a psychiatric hospital. And basically, he runs into an old flame, and she is now married to Gene Hackman's character, who also has a small part, but his very first speaking part. And it was interesting to see him in that. He kind of took on this like Southern accent, similar to what he would have in Bonnie and Clyde. And yeah, so it was good to finally hear Gene Hackman finally speak in a movie that's called Lilith. You really don't have to waste your time with that one either. Just letting you know.
We all have to start somewhere.
Well,
Absolutely.
exactly. Thank you.
Unless if you're a diehard Gene Hackman fan, of
Exactly.
course.
Yeah, and it seems like it was an unremarkable movie that still had a lot of remarkable talent in it. Because
Yeah.
you also have Peter Fonda, who is like Hollywood legend again, and Jessica Walter, who everyone now knows her as the mother from Arrested Development. So
And Archer.
Yeah. Very
Real
good
blue.
cast, but a strange film, not great.
mhm.
But yeah, that was called Lilith from 1964. I'm just going up the list here. He around this time he did a lot of TV, which is understandable. He actually started in theater, like Rachel said. He was in acting school, so that basically evolved into some theater work and then some TV work, and then finally, for purposes of this show, film. And yes, so Lilith, and then he did a couple of movies throughout the 60s, which I did not get a chance to see. But 1967, you've got Bonnie and Clyde,
Yeah.
classic movie.
Mhm.
Like I said, the official start of the new Hollywood into the 60s and 70s. I believe it was based on a true story.
It is.
Yeah,
True story. It is. Yeah.
Famous rogue duo.
Yes,
But
yes.
they were very popular during their time period in the tabloids and the papers.
Okay.
Oddly so, because they
Yeah.
were going around murdering.
Criminals.
Yeah, they
And
were
still.
robbing banks and killing everybody.
Right. Yeah.
And I think Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway were fantastic. They're iconic in this movie.
Mhm.
Gene played Warren Beatty's older brother, who was perfectly cast. He loved him so much in Lilith, he decided to put him in Bonnie and Clyde. And this was actually Gene's first Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor.
Oh.
Yes, his first Oscar nomination. So he didn't win for this, but he would win later on, very soon, a couple years later. And yeah, but Bonnie and Clyde's a classic, I must say. You guys fans of the film?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it was just so gritty and raw.
And it was also a metaphor for 60s rebellion at the time. That's what the film also was a demonstration of.
Oh yeah, good point.
That makes sense. It's one way to interpret everyone's fascination with them at the time.
Yeah.
But I also like how they didn't try to heroize them at all.
No,
Each
definitely
of
not.
them had their own faults and complications to them.
Yeah.
And that's what made the movie compelling.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
They were flawed but relatable.
Exactly.
Right. They're
I
real
agree.
people. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's a good point. But
I
yeah.
will say that
And it also saved gangster movies.
Oh,
Like it re-envisioned gangster movies
Right.
at this point, because at this time gangster movies were dying. Then this film comes out with its violence, its relevance to modern times, and yeah, without Bonnie and Clyde, we wouldn't probably have Godfather or films like that down
okay.
the
So it
line.
revitalized the genre. Is that
Yes,
the
it
time?
did.
I didn't even know that.
The crime thrill. The crime
It's
thrill.
important one. It's really important in gangster
Yeah.
history.
Yeah.
And even well, let's just say one of the most gruesome killings in Bonnie and Clyde was also replicated in The Godfather in a certain
yeah.
toll booth scene. So
Right.
it definitely has a strong influence on gangster
I know which
films.
one you're talking about.
And and the direction is fantastic too. Arthur
100%.
Penn, I believe it was. Yeah, Bonnie and Clyde is just 1967. That was a seminal year for film, I must say. And this movie was the introduction into something great, a new era. So after Bonnie and Clyde, Gene went on to do some more TV, it looks like. He did a TV movie, looks like he did maybe some small parts here and there. Marooned, which was an astronaut thriller, where it's kind of like an early version of like Apollo 13, I guess. Gene Hackman plays an astronaut in that. Here's a good one. I don't know if you guys saw I Never Sang for My Father.
Never
No,
heard
I
of
haven't,
it.
unfortunately.
Hackman's second Oscar nomination, this time for Best Leading Actor.
Okay.
This movie is fantastic. It's a family drama, and basically his father is very stern, very disapproving, grumpy old man who
Okay.
he doesn't approve of Gene Hackman's lifestyle, his career choices, and Hackman's character is basically trying desperately to communicate with this man who doesn't seem like he wants to communicate at all.
I got you.
And it just feels so realistic, and like you can act like these people can leap off the screen. They just it's just a really strong representation of the father-son dynamic, and I think he should have won for this. I'm not sure of the other competition at the Oscars that year, but this was.
I saw an actor studio clip of him talking about that he lost his father left when he was very young.
Yeah.
Like his last image of him was just him waving like casually, and then
So
he
it
was arming it.
so it's very reflective of his real life.
He talks about how
Yeah.
he uses that in his art, and yeah, really interesting. I missed the actor studio. Where is that show?
James Lipton.
Yeah, that's the one, right?
That was a good interview.
That was a really good
with
movie.
Hackman.
Yeah. 'Cause he took a moment, but yeah, you could see it still fuels him. It still fuels him, man.
And you can check out that interview with Hackman at the Actors Studio. That's on YouTube. Among many other interviews with Hackman, they're all on YouTube throughout the years, throughout the decades, talking about his craft and how he taps into emotion in his real life. But I Never Sang for My Father, worth checking out.
Okay.
It's
All right.
it's a wonderful family drama. It was
Like the sound of it.
it was very well made.
So funny thing about I Never Sang for My Father, I've never seen the movie. However, I have seen the episode of Boy Meets World that steals the title, I Never Sang for Your Father, which
Interesting.
again, like it's funny that it's like, of course, the target audience for that type of joke, a bunch of preteen kids watching the Disney Channel.
Well,
Interesting.
no TGIF.
Does it try to like also copy the plot of the movie in that episode?
It does.
I would say not really.
So they went all the way
I
with
feel like
it.
I think I see a few like aspects of it that it like parodies and it takes inspiration from it a little,
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Cool.
Yeah. It's
but
very
on a small level. It's not like verbatim.
Yeah.
right. It's imitatable. That's for sure.
Okay.
Now that I think of it. But yeah, so that was 1970. Good times, good years, good time for Hackman there. Okay, so he did some more small parts, it looks like. And then 1971, we have our first assigned film for Mr. Tyler Michael here, and that is The French Connection, 1971. Tyler, take it away.
Well, The French Connection, when I think of Gene Hackman movies, this is the film that instantly leaps into my mind. It's the film that I think is Gene Hackman's best film. And the reason for that is it's not only because he received an Oscar for Best Actor, but he well deserved it. Now, the film, in short, to put a very long and complicated plot simply and keeping spoilers to a minimum, it's about two narcotics police detectives, one played by Hackman and the other one played by Roy Scheider. And they stumble upon a drug smuggling scheme that connects to France. And what fascinates me about the film is, well, along with Gene Hackman's casting, is Gene Hackman was originally not going to be this role. He was not one of the first choices. He was one of the last choices. Originally, they wanted to have Paul Newman or Jackie Gleason in the role of Popeye Doyle, which I can see in certain respects, but Gene Hackman just embodies the role. He is just perfect for this role because he gives a character that is not your typical good cop that you would see in many films. In fact, I like that there's a morally ambiguous area to all these characters. Like Gene Hackman, for instance, he is a cop. He obviously wants to break this drug racket, but at the same time, he uses his badge to get laid. He says racial slurs. He is very stubborn. He's very self-righteous. He is not exactly a role model character. And meanwhile, the criminals, which I find also fascinating, who are in charge of all this, yes, they're bringing harm into the city, but they're also very sophisticated and actually are very friendly towards one another, which is very rare. Like, this is pre-Godfather we're looking at here. Like, they're still horrible people, but I like that the director just observes them rather than just painting them as clear-cut good guys and bad guys, which I feel is what makes that film stand out. Not only that, the film itself has a wonderful mix of new Hollywood violence, neo-noir, French New Wave with its shaky cam, its editing, and above all, its indie documentary style.
Oh yeah.
Because especially when you watch New York, because it has that documentary-like feel of the 70s. You really feel like that this is an accurate depiction of New York. And what the film is especially known for is the car chase.
Oh yes.
The car chase is one of the most exhilarating sequences I've ever seen. It's definitely one of the top 10 best car chases of all time, if not the best car chase of all time.
Mm.
And pretty much what you get out of it is it's just Gene Hackman chasing after a guy who's on a train, who takes control of the train, and all sorts of obstacles head into his way. And you're looking at both different perspectives of what's going on the train and what's going on with Gene Hackman as he steals a car and tries to chase after the criminal. It's just an amazing movie through and through. And fun fact, some of the things you'll see in the car crash and the film in general, some of them were actually accidents that made it into the film, particularly with the car chase. When you see a car actually get damaged that just comes right out of nowhere, that actually happened. There
great.
was an actual accident,
Really?
and the guy got reimbursed for it. And the engineer of the train, the actor didn't show up for work. That is the actual engineer who is not an actor, and he gives a performance that would have fooled me big time. I would have no idea he was an actual engineer.
Wow.
So
Didn't know that.
yeah, exactly.
Who's the Maverick director behind that?
That's William Friedkin.
Mhm.
He did a fantastic
The same
job.
one who would later bring
Oh,
us The
definitely.
Exorcist.
That's right.
He's a pioneer.
Oh yeah.
And here's
Right.
another pioneer thing about the film that I should also mention.
Mhm.
This is also the first R-rated film to win Best Picture. Now, I know some of you were thinking about, well, what about Midnight Cowboy? Midnight Cowboy was rated X. French Connection was rated R.
Okay.
And
interesting.
again, Hackman, Roy Scheider, they just kill it along with the rest of the cast. It's visually stunning. It's slow, but also engaging, and it gives us the action at the right points. It shows the tedious nature of this job in a very compelling way. It has all kinds of characters that the film loves to observe, where you're making your minds on their morality. It's just an all-time amazing film.
And
Agreed.
the police work between Popeye Doyle and his partner, played by Roy, there's a lot of gray area.
Exactly.
You know, it kind of reminds me of a movie that would come many decades after, but Training Day. How police officers they kind of bend the law, even break the law to just get their man.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And yeah, that's what makes this movie so great. It's like morally ambiguous amongst the main characters. The direction's fantastic. I can't believe they considered Jack Gleason for this.
Well, actually, I guess if I'm going to jump in there, I think the reason why is because I could see why for Popeye, for why they'd want to go with a more known somebody like that is because, as you've all highlighted, Popeye is a very complicated character. He's a very corrupt cop, but trying to do the right thing, and corrupt in terms of just abuse of power. But at the end, but he finds himself involved in trying to, like, finally, hey, no, I got to do the right thing here. And so if you're going to have somebody who does so much bad stuff, but you still have to root for him, it's a hard thing to do, bringing up Training Day. That's why you need Denzel. It's hard to have somebody that charismatic doing that bad of things and still be like, hey, you know what? I like that guy. And so at that point, Gene Hackman kind of really wasn't a proven quantity.
Right.
And so I could see where, Newman, you knew what you were getting. Gleason, you knew what you were getting. So you could say, hey, you could get the charisma, you get the star power to say, hey, even though he's doing terrible things, I'm still rooting for him to catch the bad guys.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I could see that's where the fear of Hackman that ultimately proved them all wrong, because, as I completely agree, Papa Doyle is, I do think, Gene Hackman's best role. I do think French Connection is his best movie. I could see why there was some skepticism around casting him for that role.
Interesting. I feel like this film is what really proved his chops as a leading actor.
Yeah.
Without this film, I don't think Gene Hackman would have as much of a career. This
Agreed.
is a film that really cemented him.
Yeah.
And if I were to think of anybody else that could have played Popeye Doyle, who was considered, I just couldn't think of him at the moment, Peter Boyle.
Okay.
A bit of irony there.
When seeing him in a film like Joe, I could definitely see him pulling off this role as well. But
Interesting.
Gene Hackman is Popeye Doyle.
Yeah.
He is irreplaceable, and I bet Ed O'Neill can't even replace
I
him
know
in the TV.
About to say, I didn't know until like 20 minutes before we recorded that there was a TV movie in 1986 called Popeye Doyle, starring Ed
Ed
O'Neill.
O'Neill, yeah.
Like, what the hell?
They were trying to Gene Hackman's charisma.
I could see it, but it's kind of an insult to Hackman.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Oh, yeah.
But I also because the car chase scene, of course. I mean, what's there not to say? But I do love the fact that the French Connection is most famous for a car chase scene that really only involves one car.
Right.
It's like the only car chase but it's about a movie about obsession. The car chase, it's like in the context of that, that's why that chase is so good, because you are seeing Doyle obsessively chasing his assassin, this guy, and just willing to literally put all of New York at risk of being under his tires just to catch this guy.
I love it.
It's so iconic. I still think of it whenever
He
I'm
knows
in a
a cop.
cab.
You do?
Yeah,
You
you
get underneath
can't help but
the
think
L
of it.
train.
Yeah.
The 7.
I always think about it.
Same.
That's hilarious.
Well, that's why maybe it was inducted into the Library of Congress for
Oh.
preservation. Seen
No,
as-
French Connection is one of the best. There's no question.
Amazing film.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
A not so amazing film, however, was French Connection 2, which came out
Search for more money.
20 years later.
I think it came out 4 years after the original, and they brought back Hackman. They probably paid him a lot of money to do it, and it's not a terrible movie, but it's just nowhere near as good as the original. And there's just like this weird scene where he basically goes to I guess we could do spoilers, but basically the bad guys, they've captured Popeye. And they put him in this like weird room where they're trying to get him hooked on heroin as a form of torture. And those are actually some really good scenes. And of course, Hackman was fantastic, playing a guy who's going through withdrawal. He's like, he wants another hit of heroin or whatever. And but yeah, the movie overall was completely unnecessary, I'd say. And they should have just kept French Connection, the original, the way it is. No sequels, no TV movies. Eventually, they're probably going to remake it, reboot it with someone, probably Ryan Gosling. I don't know.
And make him less of an interesting character.
Yes, much less. But yeah, French Connection, classic.
Amen.
Best picture, best actor. I think it won best director for Friedkin as well. And yeah, it's a great film. All right, guys, moving along. So we're into the early 70s here, and it looks like he's still doing a little bit of TV. He did this movie in 1972 that I actually saw the other day called Prime Cut, which is very strange. It was recommended through a website, like the greatest Hackman performances. And he plays a villain in this one, where he plays a head of a meat packing plant, who also has a side business of like trafficking young girls, young like teenage 20-something girls, and using them for, I guess, like prostitution purposes or like weird art installation purposes. He has like naked models posing with pigs and horses. It's out there.
Yeah.
Hackman plays the guy in charge of all these young girls, and Lee Marvin plays this guy who's trying to collect a debt from Hackman. And when he goes to encounter him, all hell breaks loose. It's a strange film. I'm kind of glad I saw it, though.
It sounds like my kind of strange.
It is very strange.
As you describe it, the title suddenly sounds really gross.
Yeah. Prime Cut. Yeah, it's out there, and I recommend it if you're a Gene Hackman completist, and if you want something weird from the early 70s to check out. But that's called Prime Cut. And right after that, Hackman went on to one of his a bigger budget film, The Poseidon Adventure, which personally I have not seen. I think I've seen like bits and pieces on cable, like as a kid, but I finally watched it in its entirety. It's actually streaming now currently on Prime Video, so it is worth checking out. It's worth revisiting. And Hackman plays a reverend turned hero when this ocean liner capsizes and it flips upside down, and then there's a small group of survivors that he's basically in charge of. There's a power struggle between him and Ernest Borgnine, who's awesome in this too. You've got a great performance from Shelley Winters, who plays this distressed middle-aged woman, and a group of like 5 people led by Hackman who are just basically trying to escape this horrible, horrible situation. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was just a fun, this was a period of time where the 70s, they had like Towering Inferno, they had Earthquake 1 and 2, Airport 1 and 2.
Yeah.
You name it, just throw a bunch of big names in there. And the Poseidon Adventure is no different. The only difference is I think it's a little more entertaining. It's interesting. The characters are well drawn out. And I had a great time watching it. So
I think what I like about Poseidon Adventure when you compare it to all the rest of them, the disaster movies, all that stuff, like, oh no, it's a building that's on fire. Oh no, it's an airport that's on fire. Oh no, there's the thing that's on fire and earthquaking. And but what I liked about Poseidon Adventure is the notion of an upside down boat. Just the notion of having to climb to the bottom of a boat to escape the water. That's like on its face actually intriguing. And that's why I think Poseidon Adventure, the fact that you're escaping a boat out the wrong way makes it interesting.
Right.
And I know we're talking Gene, but just shout out to Shelley Winters. When I
Yes.
first saw that, I was like, wow, I had no idea. She does a great stunt in there, and it's fantastic.
She was great.
We should be talking about it more.
And the underwater direction was fantastic.
Yeah. I was very impressed.
So they actually remade this I think in 2006.
I don't.
Yeah, watch the original.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty bad.
I wasn't going to mention it.
No, it was Kurt Russell and I think
A bunch of other people.
yeah, Patrick Wilson, I want to say.
Maybe.
Yeah. It was really bad. Kevin Dillon has a small part in there. He was on Entourage.
Didn't remember.
Yeah, they should not have remade it. It was a total cash grab. But the original is fantastic. For 1972, I think the special effects were fantastic.
Yeah.
And it felt like it was really happening. So I'm sorry, Ernest, you were about to say something.
No, I was going to ask if you thought the original was superior.
Oh.
Apparently everyone agrees it is superior.
Yes. It's a strong film, And John did the score.
I think that the fact that Gene Hackman, whether by like just having to choose the right roles, whether it be luck, whether it be smarts, that he ended up being in these movies that basically were the template for so many other movies going forward. So Poseidon Adventure is such the template for your disaster movie. And you've got ones like Hoosiers that is the template for the sports movie.
Yeah. I don't think though Hackman's ever really done an action hero role quite like this before or after.
Yeah.
It's a shame because he definitely has he had the potential to do that.
Maybe that's what worked about it, is that he was the everyman in his role. So
Right.
He was the unassuming hero, and
Oh,
Yeah.
I love it. Perfect. It's awesome. All right, moving along. So, wow, this was a great time for him. After Poseidon Adventure, he did probably, I think I put it in this top 5 greatest of all time, Scarecrow. Who's seen Scarecrow? Him and Al Pacino?
I unfortunately have not.
I have not, but I do know that Nathan Lane loves Scarecrow.
I have not seen it, but I know that Gene Hackman says that's his favorite role.
comedy or
It's-
drama.
It's a dramedy. So basically, it's Hackman and Pacino play 2 drifters who meet on the same road one day, both hitchhiking the same direction. And they start talking, they start becoming friends eventually. And throughout the movie, Hackman's the more dominant type. He's like more, like alpha, I guess. He wants to start up a business, a car wash business in Pittsburgh. So they're traveling from California to Pittsburgh to go into business for themselves, operating a car wash. And along the way, they meet women, they get into fights, they get arrested, spoiler. And but it's just a great film. It's very gritty, very of the time, very new Hollywood. And I mean, I was sold just, Hackman, Pacino. That's really all you need to know. And their chemistry was undeniable. So I wish this would have been one of our assigned films, because I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on it. But maybe we'll do a part 2 at some point. We'll see.
I'd be down for that.
Yeah, we'll figure something out.
Is it more of a sad movie?
It's bittersweet.
Okay, because it sounds like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a dramedy, it's like life. It's happy, it's sad, it's everything in between.
Gotcha.
So, but they just crush it in this movie. It's fantastic. And yeah, if you could find it, obviously a smaller film.
Sure.
Because this is what 73. So I think Pacino had just done The Godfather. 2 years later, he would do Dog Day Afternoon. Hackman is cementing himself, as you guys said, in Hollywood. So yeah, Scarecrow, guys, check it out. This and I Never Sang for My Father. So far, these are the two really good movies, like really solid gems in his career. So
Okay.
check those
I
out.
like the sound of them.
Yeah. Right after Scarecrow, look at this. Right after The Conversation. So this one is very interesting. It's Francis Ford Coppola directed, and Mr. Hackman plays Harry Call, who's basically a surveillance expert who is spying on this couple. The whole movie, you see this different like perspectives of this couple walking in the park and him listening on their conversation. And the further he spies on these people, the deeper he goes down the rabbit hole. And it's just a very, very sinister, nefarious situation of those who are behind what's being recorded, the actual conversation. And again, Hackman plays a very down-to-earth average Joe. And yeah, I mean, it's a very strong film. And I believe, Eric, you wanted to see this. You wanted to discuss this, right?
Well, I no, I wasn't able to see this one, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, everybody here, has anyone seen The Conversation?
seen it.
You've seen it.
Seen it.
Okay.
Started in college.
You saw it in college? Okay.
Yes, sir.
I saw it just like a week ago.
And it's like
I'm dying to see it.
Sydney Williams is one of the right. She's the one that's
Yeah, that's Laverne and Shirley, right?
Laverne and
Yeah,
Shirley,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So it was interesting to see her in a serious role.
Yeah, it was weird to see. Like, is that who I think it is?
Yeah.
And Harrison Ford has like a very small part.
Very small, yeah, cameo. Almost.
Very strange.
Yeah. Funny to see.
Good to see him in that. I think Robert Duvall plays the guy who's like in charge, kind of spoiling it.
That's fine. If you
Yeah,
haven't
yeah.
seen it by now,
Yeah.
maybe you can poke people to see it.
Yes. Everybody who hasn't seen it, The Conversation's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's probably top 3 greatest Hackman
Yeah.
performances.
Another neo-noir entry.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Very slow burn though.
Slow
Yeah.
burn. That's a-
Very slow burn, but worth it.
Yeah.
Worth it.
Yeah.
I wish movies were like this, were made like this today. It's just sad.
I know. They focused so much on wanting to excite audiences that they forgot to really build an intense atmosphere and interesting character study. I'm not saying we don't see that, but it's very rare that they
Yeah.
get popular.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They just don't make movies like this anymore. It's so
The
sad.
mid-range, yeah. I mean, there's a real call for like the mid-range. Even I mean, there's a small budget, but mid-range movies that a lot of these films fall under.
Yeah.
That they were making back then. That they
Yeah.
didn't really make.
And they all seem like they're made by the same person because the so similar in each movie.
It's just it was just that time. I mean, you're getting into I guess the sort of
I love it.
Yeah.
conspiracy
If I
Yep.
sorry.
No.
Sorry. If I could just share a quick story. My first time seeing this movie was actually in college. And I would want to give a shout out to Professor Brian Fuller at Calvin College because he had our film class watch this actually during a movie night over at his house. He had a small movie theater in his basement, and we would come over and cook dinner together, and this was one of his choices for movies that we watched together as a class.
Great choice, Professor.
He knew what he was doing.
Yeah, seriously.
Mhm.
Awesome. I definitely, there's a few of Hackman's movies I need to see a second time. This is definitely one of them because I'm pretty sure this little, tidbits I missed the first time around.
Mhm.
And just like these weird, like dark thrillers, they're just so they're like puzzles and you want to put them together. And it's just a great film.
Mhm.
So that is The Conversation in 1974. And and the next the same year actually we would have probably I would think his first comedic role of sorts that I know of in the Young Frankenstein film from Mel Brooks where he plays the blind man Harold. And it is it's probably the most memorable scenes in this movie. It's hilarious. He plays it like a straight man, and that makes it even more hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And it's just so good. It's him and Peter Boyle. Boyle plays Frankenstein's monster, who basically stumbles into this old man's house, this like cabin, hut, whatever. And Hackman plays Harold the blind man, who basically takes Frankenstein in and try to
Yeah,
treat
for-
to a meal, to a drink, and to a pipe, a smoke, and burns his finger. It's hilarious. And yeah, it's a very good scene, very memorable.
Oh yeah, if I may comment
Of
on one
course.
thing, two things actually. One, after finding out that Peter Boyle and Gene Hackman were up against each other for Popeye Doyle, it's cool to see these two together in one of the most legendary comedic scenes in history. And everybody says the line, "I was about to make espresso." It's like his best line.
Yeah.
For me, it's a subtle detail. It's the way he says it. It's not the line that's funny, but the way he says it when he's like, when he gives him the cigar, he says, "Now, don't inhale until the tip blows." Like he says it seriously, but he has an exaggerated accent when he says blows. And just the reaction from the monster's like, It's
He is so
one of the
good.
best
Like
scenes.
he is so good at comedy. He doesn't even try.
Yeah.
exactly.
The same would happen about maybe 20 years later, which we're going to get to, the Birdcage, where he is just hilarious in that. He's the straight man in that too, and he just sells it every performance,
And
drama and comedy.
And one last thing I'd like to add about the scene. I feel like if Peter Boyle was in a serious Frankenstein movie and this was the role he played, I don't think he'd have played it any different.
Oh yeah,
That's
You're
how
right.
seriously he takes that role as the straight character.
So good. Yeah, definitely one of Mel Brooks' best works
Yeah.
for sure.
100%. My favorite Mel Brooks films to boot.
And side note, I believe he used the exact same set from the original Frankenstein from the 30s.
A lot of the props.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For this one, yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know that part.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Definitely the props. Definitely the props.
Yeah, we could do a separate show about Mel Brooks if you have.
We could. Hey,
yeah,
I love Mel
the
Brooks.
fact that they went.
While he's still alive.
Oh yeah, knock on wood.
Yes. So maybe we'll do something like that. That's a good idea.
Fabulous idea.
So, well, Ernest, I think it's your time, sir. We are in 1975 for the neo-noir film Night Moves, starring Mr. Gene Hackman.
That's right. So it's another neo-noir movie.
Mhm.
It seems to be like, his go-to.
Right.
I'll say this. This movie's different in the way that its approach is different. It lulls you into a false state of security because it's very easygoing. It's easy to forget that it's supposed to be like a neo-noir kind of movie and that the way it's portrayed and the way the actors go on. What ends up happening, in my opinion, is at the end, at the last 25 minutes of the movie, so many twists and turns happen that it forces you to re-examine the movie. That's why I had to watch it 2 times.
Right.
Likewise.
Right? There are a lot of nuances in the movie and innuendos that you figure out as you watch it the second time. Because the first time I was too distracted with everything else they put in front of you.
Right.
Just to lull you into that false sense of security.
Oh, and sorry, I should have made it clear in the beginning. We're not revealing the endings to any of the movies.
Okay.
Because there are people probably watching and listening right now
Mhm.
that have not seen Night Moves.
Mhm.
So just FYI.
Okay, then I won't spoiler free.
Thank you, sir.
But a lot of twists and turns at the end.
Mhm.
And again, I do like how easygoing it is and how persuasive it is, and that it perverses your expectations. But then in the end, does turn out to be a neo-noir thriller.
Yeah.
It does. One thing I found interesting, I didn't know this initially when I was watching the movie. I couldn't figure it out. The movie is also, well, it's called Night Moves because things happen at night.
Right.
But there is a scene where he is playing chess,
Yes.
and the knight moves forward and then left or right, and him trying to like figure out the mystery, figure out like the whole case of the movie. He's just one step short. You know what I mean? It's that left and right that he's making as a knight, right? And then at the end, it almost seems helpless because he's going in a circle, and that's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah.
Yes.
Well put. Well
And
put.
I love how he's another everyman just going deeper down this rabbit hole.
That's part of the lull.
Yeah.
It's part of the lull, I swear. It doesn't look very extravagant, but it's still compelling until the end. Then you have to
Right.
reanalyze the movie.
Plus, you've got a very young Melanie Griffith, who's fantastic.
Really?
Too
Yeah.
young, actually. The movie was shot 2 years before release. They had to
Oh.
release the movie 2 years after it was shot to wait for her to become of age
Right.
because there are a few nude scenes in the movie.
Yeah. And also I forget the actor's name, but he was actually he was one of the jurors in 12 Angry Men. He plays a pivotal role in this, and
Yes, he
a
does.
very morally ambiguous character in Gene Hackman's character's life. And yeah, there's some great fight scenes, I must say, but very like raw and gritty hand-to-hand combat in this. And again, it's not really Hackman as an action hero. He's just like a normal guy who goes into this weird adventure.
Very weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was curious about the movie. I'm glad that I picked this as one of our movies. And yeah, this was during a pivotal time in Hackman's career.
Mhm.
So this is just another entry in that filmography.
It's a good era.
Yeah,
Mhm.
great era.
Yeah.
So that's Night Moves.
Good movie.
I thought, well, I'm going to be honest about Night Moves, if
Yeah.
you don't mind me sharing.
Of course.
I don't think it was a bad movie,
No.
but I didn't love it as much as the critics loved it. Because when I think of like neo-noir films that like take an unconventional approach, this film does it. Because what I like about the film, particularly Hackman, he's the one that holds the film together, in my opinion. He's playing the vulnerable hero. He is not the Sam Spade. He is not, the typical Humphrey Bogart role. And I like that the film doesn't focus on him having like either an addiction problem or that he has like this traumatizing flashback that he's supposed to overcome. Like he is like the average man, which I feel is a big part of the film's appeal.
Mhm.
And I think the casting is really spot on.
Yeah.
My only problem with the problem with the film I have is, well, I just felt like the plot was a little too complicated for what it was. I didn't think the style was all that interesting. And I do like what it was trying to do, but compared to other films that defy the noir tropes like Breathless by Jean-Luc Godard or The Long Goodbye starring Elliot Gould,
Right.
I feel like this film was a little short on the interest level. Now, if I were to say objectively, it is a good movie. But from what I got out of it after seeing it twice, it just didn't appeal to me like other people did.
Interesting.
Okay. Okay.
Fair enough. But you got to admit, Hackman was great.
Oh, Hackman was the whole cast was great.
It's just the movie.
I felt like these characters could have been even more interesting with a tighter script because the script is just all over the place when we get to the ending. And I get it's supposed to be,
Yeah.
but even I'm questioning certain things, particularly in the last 25 minutes.
Yeah, I wanted to love the movie, but I just enjoyed it very much.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. That's the
Right.
best way. I
Right.
appreciate it actually more than enjoy.
Cool. All right. So that's Night Moves. Check it out. Then we have Bite the Bullet, which was a Western he did in 1975, same year. French Connection 2. Got a couple of movies here. A Bridge Too Far. He has a small part in that as a Polish soldier general. And that movie's like over 3 hours. I couldn't get through it. I was just sitting there waiting to see Hackman. It had Michael Caine, which was great. Had some other
He's
great.
good.
Yeah, Sean Connery's in it. But it's just kind of an overlong war epic, and I just wasn't feeling it at the time. But yeah, maybe I'll check it out in the future. Oh, here we go, Brian. So we've got the Man of Steel here. So basically, Superman 1 and 2 were filmed back to back with Hackman as the nefarious arch nemesis Lex Luthor. Luthor, excuse me. So, Brian, take it away for Superman 2, right?
Yeah, I figured I'd go with Superman 2. I revisited. I watched. I should say watched Superman because Superman was around when I was a kid. It used to be on TV, but it was always seemed like a long epic, so I was never really that interested in it. So I'd never really. I grew up with Superman 2, which is I think just it just jumps right out of the gate right away. The characters are established. Everyone knows their lines, knows their dialogue, knows the banter. But yeah, I watched the two back to back just to get a feel of the character. And I just felt like Superman 2 definitely showcases his comedic chops a bit more. It's probably my favorite group of villains, including Lex. I think the movie very unusual because it focuses so much on the villains and it almost makes it their movie. But I just think his little asides, his direct. He's obviously letting like Terrence Stamp chew the scenery as General Zod, and he's sort of hanging back and making his little comments. But just his dry wit and his comedic, his comedic timing is great in this film as Luthor. Even though he's the villain, he's the sneaky little villain, but you like him, and there's always this gleam in his eye when he's doing something dastardly evil, but you just like him, and I think it's so rare to see that these days, especially in a lot of superhero films. You just don't get that same vibe anymore, even from the villains. It's just sort of like very cookie cutter. And here, everyone is very nuanced. You almost kind of want to see him win. You almost kind of want to see them win, and it doesn't happen. But of course, it's just that he just plays the character so well, and the whole cast is pretty stacked with just great people at the top of the game. and it's a screenplay with Mario Puzo, who worked on The Godfather, is returning back and writing with David and Leslie Newman, I believe. And but yeah, it's just snappy lines, just comedic humor, and then of course you have all the superhero stuff going on. But he, as usual, grounds that. He brings in he is the earthbound villain and just brings that sort of grounded nature to the humor and to his character, and I just really appreciated it. And it's just I'm in that sweet spot of generation that knew of his work prior to seeing Superman movies, but I can appreciate that character and everything he's done before, everything he's done after, and just to be able to really appreciate him as an actor, especially doing this and having this discussion. It's just really showing me how much of a loss it was, to the culture.
Yeah, he was just perfectly cast.
I just did not so much. Yeah, just as like I said, to compare it to like a Nicholson, even though they came up in that same era, it's like when you see a Nicholson movie, it's like, okay, it's Jack Nicholson playing this role, but Gene Hackman really does just embody the character that he's in, and whether it's a big role or a small role, he was a working actor. He just was there about the part and just bringing it all. And yeah, and I think the Superman movies are a great testament to his comedic chops and the fact that he can play a villain that you like.
I think it's also
Definitely.
it was pretty much a universal introduction to his acting ability as a kid. Like we probably all saw Superman the movie as a kid.
I haven't,
Oh,
unfortunately.
you have? Okay. Well,
Actually, I just saw it recently for this podcast.
Oh, wow.
And all the years I've been missing to see the first Superman.
Gotcha. But yeah, a lot of kids, in the 80s, they would grow up.
That was me.
Yeah. Seeing Hackman as Luthor, and that was like the introduction to let's see more of his stuff.
And even just revisiting it as middle-aged, this list, John Williams' score, just hearing that the opening credits and everything, it's just something about it really hit me. I was like, man, this is Hollywood. This is this is
movie magic.
Yeah, it really
gets you ready.
It really gets you ready, and then you just have this great cast. I always throw out like Margot Kidder, and who I think is the template for like a Gale Weathers and the Scream movie. I think there's just this great banter and in the dialogue and the attention to characters that you kind of forgive some of the special effects being dated because the characters are just so great and the dialogue's just so snappy, which I don't know why they don't bring that back.
Well, I think they're going to bring it back this summer with James Gunn's Superman. So
I voted. Yes.
Let's hope.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
That snappy banter back and forth with the paper is alive and everything's just moving.
Jackie Cooper.
Yeah. Everything's just that old school, feel.
Classic.
Do you have any experience with the director's cut of Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut?
I have not yet. I was
Not
going
yet?
to.
I've seen it. There's some tweaks here and there. I didn't notice a huge
I grew
difference.
up with the Richard Lester comedic 21.
Yeah.
I've been quoting that one for years.
There is one thing from the Richard Donner cut. Now, I haven't seen it in full, the Richard Donner cut. I've only seen the second film in full. But there is one scene that feels warranted, which should have been in the original cut, but they couldn't at the time because Marlon Brando wouldn't do it. Well, keeping spoilers to a minimum, let's just say that a resolution to when Superman loses a significant part of himself, shall we say.
The effects of
We get a
kryptonite.
very emotional scene between him and Brando, which I felt like would have been earned because on its own in the second film, when things are resolved for Superman's personal case, it's just like he could have done this all along. Wow. What a letdown. There are a lot of things in the film, which I think it's just great. I think it's not a great, but a good follow-up. It's definitely good for Superman fans.
Yeah.
It has the same likability. It has some really good action. The villains definitely make the movie. They're the reason why I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, Terrence Stamp
He's
is
great.
is probably the best Zod ever, which isn't saying much, but I just love how calm, cool, collected he is.
It's Tara Douglas as Ursa is one of my favorites, and Tom, what's his name? Hackman.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like taken right out of the pages of the comic.
Right. It feels like a comic book sequel. The problem with me, at least the problems I found within it, was it didn't have that same epic grand scale that the first film had.
Okay.
And there were just a lot of great ideas that this film has that doesn't really go anywhere in the end. There are even some continuity errors that made me go, wait, Lex Luthor is now friends with the secretary from the previous film, even though she betrayed Lex Luthor. There are a lot of things that just didn't add up, but it's still a fun romp. It's still good popcorn entertainment, especially for the Superman fans.
And I don't think they only used the Superman theme by John Williams. The score itself was done by someone else.
Oh, exactly,
I
yeah.
definitely, when I had my earphones on, I definitely noted some notes were off. I was like, wait a minute, who did the music? I was like, I could tell there was some notes from the copyright. I was like,
Different
Yeah.
composer on that.
But if you're talking about the resolution at the end, that was an important scene. That needed to happen. I'm sorry, but that's what makes that movie. I haven't seen the Richard Donner cut yet, so I don't know if they put that out and didn't put it in.
Actually, they did something worse.
Yeah.
He for a different resolution, he
That
does
resolution
the
is so-
same thing that he did to save the world in the first movie.
Oh no.
Yes. Oh no, is
going
right.
around the earth and
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
They do that in the Richard Donner cut.
I'll keep my Lester cut then. No, I'll watch it. But that is.
But I will say the Richard Donner cut, from what I've seen, is just worth it for seeing that one scene with him and Brando.
Brando,
At least look that up.
Yeah.
That's my recommendation, and you'll see what I'm talking about in terms of the resolution to when Superman loses a significant part of himself.
Right. But I agree with you about the first one though, having that grand scale epic quality. Because there were moments where I was like, wow, this is that Hollywood that, this is I just felt it. It was like, I could see John Williams, I could feel it that it was running through it. And then the second one is just sort of like more snappy banter and it's back and forth.
Right.
But there's some really good stunt work going on.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm not denying that. You are right.
Yeah.
And it's also cool to see Superman once again fighting against super villains, which in the first film it was all disasters, which were still exciting.
Right.
You felt the adrenaline, but it is cool to finally see him go against Kryptonians.
Yeah, and they were just, I think, to this day, his best villains.
If any reason for me to go back to see Superman 2, it's for the villains.
Yeah. They're my favorite
That
parts.
is the best part of the whole
Like, how did we
movie.
not? It was the '80s. How did we not get like a Saturday morning cartoon with them solving mysteries or something?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Where
Well,
are
they do have. They
their action figures?
Well, we had the Superpowers team. That was a
well, first we had 3 different super friends.
I had the
right.
Yeah, that had
it was the
figures,
revised
Friends,
Super Friends.
Yeah.
For the,
Yeah.
with the
But
tie-ins.
all throughout the movie, through the 70s too, they had the Super Friends versions that were going on, but they never touch on any of the Kryptonians like Zod, apart from one episode where we go to Kandor.
Yeah.
But we really never have had the same kind of overplayed Zod Kryptonian, so you don't have the same comparison. So it's not like that. Like you have all the different Lexes just building on this movie.
Right.
Like,
That is true. That is true.
I
and then of course Lex does return for 4, which is its own version in itself. I know we're going to get to that, but it's like that's how lastable his character was.
He was, so he didn't make an appearance in Superman 3, I believe, right?
I don't think so.
That was Robert Vaughn as the villain who took over the Luthor character. It was basically the same.
It's basically the same.
person.
Yeah.
But not a great movie. Richard Pryor plays Superman's like sidekick.
Bit of kinder.
It's very awkward.
Bit of kinder trauma with the robot scene at the end. That was
that was
I saw that as a
freaky.
child, and it still bothers me.
Yeah, she got the metal wiring.
That was a disturbing.
Well, if I recall correctly,
That of a villain, so that didn't have to.
She didn't really do anything.
She didn't really do anything.
She just
but-
walked around like Frankenstein and shot
well,
lasers.
if I'm not sure of this because again the problem is I've never cared enough about Superman 3 to ever. Well, my understanding is that the villain of Superman 3 was supposed to be Brainiac.
Correct.
And that's why so when you look at all the robot and you look at all that stuff, that was supposed to be Brainiac, which doesn't make sense, but still, at least it's like but they changed it for whatever reason, and
They sort of tried.
They still
which I mean,
Attempt was made.
based on everything I saw, everything I've seen so far, I'm pretty sure with Gunn you're going to be seeing Brainiac in the new upcoming James Gunn one. So finally, maybe after all this time.
Well, no, we had the
Brainiac.
Smallville season of Brainiac.
Yeah. Well, I mean, on a Superman theatrical level.
All right. So we would have saved this for later, but since we're on the Superman theme right now, Superman 4, The Quest for Peace would welcome the return of Lex Luthor, played by Gene Hackman. But in this one, we also had the Nuclear Man.
That's right.
Who was a really weird, stupid character who would basically be created when they would They're trying to rid the world of all nuclear weapons. They threw all the nuclear weapons into the sun, which created this weird explosion that created this like this guy, this like living god or whatever.
Well, yeah, Superman figured it out. You get rid of the nukes, world peace.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I think wasn't that what the original ending of Nolan's Oppenheimer was? Is like if only somebody could throw all the nukes into the sun.
Well, no, that's
Yeah.
Sunshine.
Oh, Sunshine. Sorry.
That's Sunshine. Yeah.
Oppenheimer. I wish Superman could throw him into the sun and yes, okay.
And also with the nuclear man, he was actually voiced by Gene Hackman.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He was an American.
No, well, the actor was like a model or just like this buffed guy,
Yeah.
but
Wow.
Hackman actually voiced the character.
Interesting.
Yeah, because the nuclear man was supposed to be like the son of Lex Luthor and the son. It was weird, like a love child between Lex Luthor and the nuclear weapons.
Like they don't explain how he comes. He's just
he just
weapons.
he
Well,
just,
if
he
I-
just he
It
comes
wasn't like
out.
I think it was wasn't it Lex Luthor using Kryptonian DNA?
Right.
Superman's hair.
Oh, got it.
So
Yeah.
Superman's DNA plus the nuclear reaction
Yes.
would create this
Plus
thing.
Lex's DNA.
Oh, he did that?
Yeah.
Really?
This is the plot.
Yeah.
And then we'll do it, and then we'll just copy and paste that for Doomsday for Batman v Superman.
It's so bad.
I don't know.
Who wrote this stuff?
I'm not sure.
Well, and again, think about what you just said.
Yeah,
I know for sure.
Yeah, I don't want to look that up.
Think about what you just said about the who wrote this stuff, but then Zack Snyder still took that, copy and pasted, and just changed the name from Nuclear Man to Doomsday for Batman v Superman.
I think
so
it's
stupid.
Which also didn't
Yes.
work quite.
Well, hey, even though it was a terrible movie, Hackman did a good job, and
And also, I think in that one, what's his name from 2.5 Men has a
Oh,
redundant.
John
Cryer.
Yeah.
Pryor's in it. It's so weird. Oh my God. Yeah.
That's right.
Weird, but sort of cute at the same time. Some of the lines I find are sort of cute and laughable.
Well, he did that the same year, I think, as Morgan Stewart's Coming Home, the Ferris Bueller ripoff with John Cryer.
Wasn't he
This sounds good, Brad.
in Superman? And he had to was he wearing a wig? And
I think he wore
Wait, are you talking about
a bald cap in part 2.
No, actually, he refused to shave his head.
He refused to
No,
shave
John
his-
Cryer. John Cryer. I mean.
Oh,
John
I'm
Cryer.
sorry. I thought you were talking about Gene Hackman.
No, yeah.
Well, I think John Cryer's bald now. Like
He's bald now.
Yeah.
But I think back then, if he was doing the 2 movies.
Oh,
That's
no.
sort of a sidetrack. Right?
No, it's okay.
All right.
All right, guys. So let's get out of Metropolis
Yeah,
for a
that was
bit.
a fun little sidetrack.
Yeah. All
We
right.
have many more films to go.
So we are now in the 1980s for Mr. Hackman's career. And this one I unfortunately did not get a chance to see from 1981. It is an epic, I'd say.
Movie,
Yeah, Reds.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you've seen it. Have you?
I've never seen it.
No.
I know.
Wanna
of it.
see it.
Have you guys seen it on the?
I have not.
No.
That's one of those that was always on like and Epic and
Yeah,
and I was.
but it's got a great
watching cartoons.
Yeah, you got Warren Beatty, you got Diane Keaton, you've got Nicholson,
Yes.
and I think I'm missing somebody else. But you also have obviously Hackman.
Diane Keaton.
Yes, Diane Keaton. I
That's
mentioned.
right.
You saw it.
I saw it.
Now, how is it? Is it worth one's time?
So it's based on true events. It is seen as an epic. At the end of the day, I think it's a solid movie, although I don't think it's good enough to be as long as it is.
No, the length is worth.
I remember
It was about it was about just shy over 3 hours.
It was one of
think
those
so.
that I
Yeah.
remember having an
Yeah,
intermission.
it does have a good cast. Unfortunately, Gene Hackman's only in the movie for about 10 minutes. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But overall, good movie, but not good enough. Again,
Yeah.
it's a tad bit long.
I think it won the Oscar for Best Director for Beatty.
Oh, okay.
It was 81. I think it lost the Oscar to Chariots of Fire, Best Picture.
Mhm.
But would you say this was a good contender that year?
Oh man, I'd have to see the competition. 'Cause
Okay.
Overall, like I don't mean to rate the movie, but I give it a 7 overall.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So that's Reds, and it's from 1981.
Mhm.
Definitely want to check that out in the future. After this, Hackman did a movie called Eureka, which I believe is also on Prime right now, which I did not get a chance to see either. He did a movie in 83 called Under Fire, which was basically it took place in Nicaragua in the late 70s during a lot of like political turmoil and a lot of violence in the streets. I forget his character, but Nick Nolte and Joanna Cassie play like journalists who go into that region, and Gene Hackman is also involved with them. And yeah, it's violent and it's raw, but it's got one of Jerry Goldsmith's greatest scores, so I recommend it just for that. And I believe he was nominated that year for an Oscar, but he lost to someone else. But that's called Under Fire. So check that one out. Also, Ed Harris has a small part. Okay, we are into the
I don't
80s.
think that's on the list, but I did see that one,
Which one?
the Two of a Kind one.
Oh,
Which I did. I'm just reading that he played God in that one. It's funny that he doesn't voice
the voice of God, played by Gene Hackman. You want to?
Yeah. Sorry there's a movie called Two of a Kind that was in the '80s. There's Olivia Newton-John, John Travolta. That capitalizing off their chemistry from Greece, obviously.
Nice.
They have great chemistry in movies. It's really fascinating. Yeah. Apparently, he plays God in this film. It's a film about two single people in the world who are. And the fates are sort of, the angels are trying to get them together, but things keep happening that, change different. It's a really strange movie, but I know what they were going for. But it's known for, if you ever watch Stranger Things, there's a Olivia Newton-John song called "Twisted Fate" that was used at like a prom, and that song is from this movie. It's a kick-ass song. But yeah, I was reading his bio and realized that he played God in that film, so it's like
That's
cool. Revisit that. But
Was he convincing as the Almighty?
if I remember correctly, it's comedic. It's like because it's got like Beersheba Straight. I think Scatman Crothers. I want to say Scatman Crothers. There's a few actors who play like the angels who are overlooking the two characters here on Earth, and they keep making the wrong choices, but they keep trying to get them together in this romantic sense. But one's a con artist or whatever, and she's like a bank teller. It's and he sticks up. It's a whole like convoluted plot, but you have scenes with the angels talking to God, and it's
Is it just his voice you hear? Or do you
yeah,
actually
it's
see
just
him?
I think it's just his voice, and it's just comedic, banter between him and
I want to
Gates.
see him in like a white robe with a beard.
I don't know. I don't think he. Yeah, it's uncredited. Just his voice. Yeah. That's interesting.
That's
But
cool.
it's a quirky movie he used to play on cable all the time. But Twisted Fate, that Olivia Newton-John song, good jogging song. Check it out.
Oh. All right, guys. So that's Two of a Kind, 1983. And at this point, Hackman is a solidified, leading man. And even during this period, he was doing a lot of supporting roles too. So that's like a trend in his career. He did a war film called Uncommon Valor in '83. Did a couple of things. Moving along to 1986. And this is actually one of my favorite Hackman performances. It's Hoosiers, or also known as Best Shot, from 1986. And it is a basketball drama where Hackman plays a Navy man who basically comes to this small town in Indiana to coach high school basketball. And it's just a really inspirational story. It's based on true events. And Hackman's incredible in it. He's got some very inspirational speeches throughout the movie. It's got one of Jerry Goldsmith's finest scores, one of his early electronic scores, which he was also nominated for an Oscar for. And yeah, it's just a decent film, strong film all around, and one of the first Hackman performances I remember ever seeing. So it's Hoosiers. And Eric, I believe you're an enthusiast of this film.
I don't know if I would call myself an enthusiast. It was one of those ones I knew about it growing up, but it's one that I kind of, I'd see it on TV, or my parents talked about it, and of course, you'd always hear it talked about whenever it became, greatest sports movies of all time. Hoosiers was always included on that list, and I genuinely did not remember the last time I had seen it, and it was one of those ones where it's like I really did not remember a lot of it until I rewatched it literally yesterday, and it's easy to see why it's kind of almost like when you think about every sports movie since, it's kind of the blueprint. And considering that like one of my favorite shows of current years was Ted Lasso, you can draw a major through line between Hoosiers and Ted Lasso, the notion of the coach just giving it all to or just putting it out there, trying to be the best possible person he can be to make his team the best possible team they can be, and especially at such a small local level. And I think what I really liked about the movie is it definitely really got that small town feeling down.
Mhm.
And like, especially another great TV show, like very similar to that, Friday Night Lights, especially with the notion of the coach that is constantly not just battling with his own students trying to make them the best, but the fact of how much the community is also constantly trying to tell him how to do his job, and how it's that constant battle between both those forces. And Hoosiers definitely did a really good job of that. And I think Hackman himself on his performance, I loved it because it's the thing of you see the quiet complexity underneath it all. That this is a man that is trying his best who failed at something long ago. And they do a really good job of kind of keeping that close to his chest about why somebody as distinguished as him would be in just this small town.
Mhm.
And I appreciate the way that they let that play out. And I feel like he plays such a good guy, and a good guy that understands his own demons and how much he's trying to ensure that the kids that he's teaching don't go down those same roads as him. And I think that's why it's such a iconic sports movie. And I think it's Hackman's performance and Hackman's character that makes Hoosiers the legendary film that it is.
And not just a sports film, but just a strong drama about, human beings. And you've got a really great performance, a supporting performance from Dennis Hopper.
Yes.
Yeah.
The town drunk who's trying to dry up. And his son basically is a member of Hackman's basketball team. So there's a lot of complexities there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of drama.
Which I would argue is very much what the core of this one is about the fact that these are, again, people trying to always find, like, people who went to the bottom and they're trying to be better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Hopper especially emphasizes that a lot, and especially with Hackman, and that's really the lesson that they're trying to pass on, is the notion of just being the best you can be, and that you can still come back from that, even when it don't pull it off, you can still come back from that.
Yeah. Has anyone else seen Hoosiers?
I wish I did.
I will after this.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
No.
I need to add sports.
Okay.
Erica, have you seen Hoosiers? Okay, you have.
Cool.
Thoughts on it?
I think it's a good movie, and it also makes me think about how we wouldn't have all the 90s sports classics without it. We wouldn't have
Yep.
Mighty Ducks, or we wouldn't have Little Giants, and we wouldn't have the early 2000s movie with Ice Cube where he's the football coach. And I don't have the name of that one right now.
Oh, yes, I know. Yeah,
The Girl from the Bee.
the name eludes me.
Well, I want to.
And that it's just it's a fun watch, and it's like it's not my favorite sports movie. When I looked at it as a child, it's like it felt more dated and less relatable, but it's the blueprint of all of it in a bit more of a dramatic level. And he's good in, like you said, it's just an interesting casting. But it's on a long run, like I said, it's more interesting to think where would everything be movie-wise without it to first introduce it as a genre.
Mhm. And I also want to mention that this director, David Onsprow, I am probably butchering that. He went on to direct Rudy, another great sports movie.
Yes.
Also scored by Jerry Goldsmith, I
That's a
must
good one.
say.
One of his best scores.
Oh,
I may
yeah.
add.
I think it's my favorite, actually, out of everything he's done, but that's another episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, Hoosiers and Rudy would be a great double feature, I think, one night.
Oh, I love the sound of that.
We'll coordinate that one. But yeah, so Hoosiers, guys, you haven't seen it, check it out. It's very good. Strong Hackman. And yeah, just a great film. So that's 1986. We're gonna move. Okay, so in 87, he did Superman 4: The Quest for Peace. We already discussed that.
What more can be said?
What more? Yes, I think we covered that. We exhausted that one.
This one is a big one.
No Way Out. I actually have never seen this, but I'm glad I did. The other night I watched it.
That was a big one when it came out. Yeah.
Oh, really?
I don't know if is anyone covering it or.
No, but we're about to right now.
I hadn't seen it, but
you haven't seen it?
Yeah, that was one of those like steamy adult, Kevin
Yeah.
Costner and Sean Young, the big limo scene. Yeah,
Right,
that was
right.
of its time. It was
They parodied that in Hot Shots
I
Part
believe
2.
so. Yeah. I'm so excited, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
strange scene. So yeah, No Way Out stars Kevin Costner as a Navy officer who is in love with the same woman that Hackman's character is involved with. And basically he plays a shady politician who accidentally, in a heat of passion, accidentally murders her. She's
Mm.
played by Sean Young. And basically the whole movie is Hackman trying to cover it up with Will Patton, and Costner's character is trying to get to the bottom of it all because they were both in love with the same woman, and it actually wasn't that bad. The score was a little cheesy; it was very electronic. It didn't really go anywhere, but the movie was good. It had strange chase sequences that felt a little out of place. It was more of like a psychological thriller than anything. A very young Costner, and of course a great Hackman. So that's No Way Out. I recommend that one.
Is that Adrian Lyne?
And
I don't know. Well, you keep talking.
No,
I don't know who directed it.
I don't think anyone notable directed this one. Let me see here.
Roger
Roger
Donaldson.
Donaldson.
He did Species.
Oh wow. Okay, it's interesting. Robert. Okay, so Species was actually better than this, I'd
It's one
say.
of my favorite movies.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
It's a big budget B movie. They don't make them anymore. Like that.
Yeah, I know. All right, so that's No Way Out. So check it out if you want like a nice steamy thriller, as you put it, and it's pretty deep.
It's probably dated, but at the time, it's like,
It's
ooh,
dated.
the limousine scene. That's what everyone was talking about.
It is a little
And then you could
dated.
put Kevin Costner on the map or whatever.
It did a little bit. I think that was one of his big breakthrough roles.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go into the late 80s. So 1988 saw the release of one of his greatest films of all time, and another Oscar nomination for him in this, Mississippi Burning. Very depressing, very, very powerful, true events here. Good score.
Not really.
Not really?
Very
it was
exaggerated.
inspired by.
Inspired by,
Okay.
but it's very fictionalized. Even the director on record say this was very fictionalized.
Okay.
Because if there's one thing I want to mention about the film,
Sure.
I think it's a good movie. I want to make that clear before we go any further.
Sure.
I think its emotions are very powerful. It has some of the most disturbing scenes of racism I've ever seen. It's well made. I love the 60s aesthetic look of the film. It really feels like one of those old documentaries you'd see from the time, but it's raw. Yeah, like it looks grainy with its washed out colors, and the cinematography, the lighting, it's haunting. The cast is phenomenal with the likes of Willem Dafoe, not just Gene Hackman, but also Brad Dourif, Frances McDormand, R. Lee Ermey, everyone giving a stellar performance. My problem with the film are a few things. I feel like despite all the harshness we see of racism, it doesn't have anything new to say about it. They make the FBI agents who were against civil rights in real life, not these particular people, but the FBI in general, were against civil rights at the time.
Right.
So to have them as heroes is a bit of an absurd liberty. And on top of it, I just wish the film focused more on the people that were actually suffering as opposed to the two agents. But with that said, the agents are very fun to watch if you view it as a buddy cop movie with a historic backdrop and know it's fiction.
Right.
So I'm just saying, I don't think it's that powerhouse everybody makes it out to be, or at least not the groundbreaker when it comes to films depicting racism, but it's still a well-made movie that is highly entertaining and disturbing in the right places.
Yeah.
I never saw it, but I know the score was used in a couple of trailers. There's a particular piece that I'm gonna go home and revisit after this because I remember liking it.
Yeah, it's a solid film, but I think
is.
it might be. I agree with you, a little overrated, perhaps.
Very overrated. That's what I think. It's very overrated, but it's an incredibly well-made film. And of course, Gene Hackman and Willem Dafoe, the way these two work off each other is just brilliant.
And Hackman was nominated for Best Actor for this, which is great. He was fantastic. I thought Dafoe was great too.
Yes.
Dafoe was amazing.
Very young. He was probably like 30 years old here, maybe a little older than that. But yeah, it's a very heavy topic. It's racism. The movie opens with three people in a car, one black person, and they get harassed and murdered, I believe.
They do.
Yeah. And then they send the two FBI agents into this small town to investigate. And they just find out that everybody in the town is racist, basically, and how they're met with opposition and resistance. And it's just, Yeah, it's not a feel good movie, that's for sure.
No, but it's not a challenging movie either in the way it
Mm.
should be.
Interesting.
Aside from its visual depiction of violence, like even the people in this town, they're so hatefully racist. It's like there's no humanity to them to make them relatable,
Mhm.
to make them like say, "Oh my gosh, that could be me."
Ernst, have you seen the film?
I saw the movie. I thought it was a good drama. I just recently found out about, some of the backlash the movie got about a lot of the fictionalized events.
Mm.
Of course, they did that to fill seats. They used to do
Yeah.
that a lot. They
Of
still do
course,
it today.
that's it. Definitely
Yeah,
shows.
but I think Tyler's right. The chemistry between Defoe and Hackman is compelling all throughout. I think everybody does a pretty good job acting wise, but towards the middle of the movie does weaken a little bit for me,
Mhm.
but then it gets back on track towards the end with some of the resolutions.
Yeah.
Overall, a good movie though.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, definitely a well-made movie
Yeah.
with some
Uh,
really powerful performances and scenes that make it stand out.
how about you guys? Are you fans of the film?
No, not personally.
Okay. Yeah. Rachel?
I'm not as familiar. I don't remember if I've seen it or not.
I have not seen it.
Okay. It's worth checking out.
Oh, definitely worth checking out.
Mhm.
But again, not a feel good.
Yeah.
So that's Mississippi Burning. And now we're getting into the 90s. Oh, yeah, 1990. He did a movie called Loose Cannons, which this was a strange one too. Basically, I think he plays a cop who teams up with Dan Aykroyd, who has like a split personality disorder. And so when they're out in the field investigating a case, he would turn into a totally different person, and it would just cause make the investigation go not very smoothly. Strange movie. I saw it I had like a Dan Aykroyd binge, but I didn't revisit it for the Hackman binge, so it's fine.
Okay.
It's worth forgetting. All right, so here we go. Early 90s.
Postcards for the Edge. Can I mention
Oh,
that real
yeah.
quick?
Go ahead, sure.
Like, it's been a while since I've seen the movie, but it's one of those films that with every viewing, I always notice something different about it. And I honestly forgot that Gene Hackman was in the movie. And that's not a bad thing. After remembering that he was in that film, he was really good as this director who is very harsh to this to this person who's based off of Carrie Fisher. But then you see a soft side at the ending that feels earned, and he plays both sides of the director really well and quite humorously.
Okay.
Keeping spoilers to a minimum, of course, but for those that are interested in Carrie Fisher and Debbie Reynolds' relationship in a fictionalized but also comical way, but also a dramatic way, this is an overlooked film that I really think deserves more attention.
And is that Meryl
I
Streep,
agree.
Shirley MacLaine?
Exactly.
Oh, love them.
Yeah.
Recommend Carrie's books.
Because I know you're more familiar with it.
Okay. Carrie Fisher. I didn't know she wrote.
Oh yeah, that's a whole other episode.
Oh.
She was a ghostwriter for many screenplays.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
and she punched them up.
Did not know that. All right. So now into the 90s.
There were a few others, but
Did you want to?
Well, I know of Class Action and
Okay.
Don't forget Unforgiven.
Well, yeah, we're gonna get to
Yeah.
that's the next big
But
one.
Narrow Margin. I think
Mhm.
yeah, these are like his action.
All his thrillery actions.
Thrillers, yeah.
That's cool. Where they kind of made him into almost like an action hero.
Yeah.
That's I like that.
One of its new representation around this time or something.
Oh, you think he changed managers?
I don't know. Yeah, this whole era was like Narrow Margin, Class Action, Hackman.
All these tough guys.
Yeah,
titles.
exactly.
That's cool. Company business. And now, 1992, we have Hackman's next Oscar nomination and Oscar win for Best Supporting Actor for Unforgiven. Now, this movie is great. He only did a handful of Westerns, but this is probably his strongest from what I've read. And it's Clint Eastwood wrote, I think he directed and starred. I don't know if he wrote it, but it's basically about an aging gunslinger who's called back into action when this prostitute is cut up. Her face is like slashed. So they want to get revenge on the people who did it. So they hire Clint Eastwood, and Clint Eastwood moseys on into town. And this small town is basically run by a sheriff played by a sinister Gene Hackman, who is fantastic. And it's just a great film. It's raw, it's awesome, and it's just probably one of the better Westerns to come out of the 90s, I'd say. So who's first? Who wants to talk about Unforgiven? Erica, why don't you?
Okay. So I actually disagree with a lot of what you said. I think it's a brilliant Western, but I think it's his audition for my choice, which is coming up in a few more years. But it's a brilliant one. He shows his cynicism. It shows the grit of the West. It has such nice shots to it. Plenty of the scenes have like these long angles, what you need for a Western. And yes, and Clint Eastwood does it, and they have good chemistry together. I'll agree with that. But like I said, not his best Western in my opinion.
Not his best. I agree, not his best, but a
Well,
strong.
no, I'm gonna get to my favorite role where he's a
I know
Western.
you
We
will. We
pretty
got a
much
few
would
more
love the
years.
exact same thing.
Got a couple more years until we get to you.
Well,
I know.
I think it's one of the best Westerns I've ever seen. And I like that it kind of revived the genre in a way.
Yes, it definitely revived the genre.
Definitely
There's not
brought
too
Eastwood
many
back on the
Westerns in
map.
the
I
80s.
like that he's not the typical Eastwood until a certain point of the movie. I think that's what makes it fascinating. And I love that Gene Hackman's character is subtly evil. Like he is evil, but he's just so calm, collected, but also he knows how to embarrass a person and put them on the spot or make them feel they're in danger. Like he's just a snake in the grass. And he doesn't have to look sinister half the time for how laid back he is. That's how much I love Gene Hackman in the movie, as well as Eastwood, Morgan Freeman. The whole cast was just phenomenal, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Hmm.
Ernest, thoughts?
For me personally, altogether, I agree with everyone. I think it's a great Western. I do like how more grounded of a work that it is. If you watch many Westerns, there's guys going around gunslinging, going on a few tad bit stories that just end up with more gunslinging. This movie's very grounded in that it depicts a certain kind of Western that's different in that it's a series of unfortunate events.
Exactly.
Everyone's story in the movie is at one point or another unfortunate. A lot of people, for example, I'll say the young man who is blind in the movie, but he goes out there to be a gunslinger of sorts, is a great, I would say, depiction of a lot of what was going on probably at the time. Not everyone was privileged enough to even have spectacles, the frontier of the West. Gene Hackman to me was presented as almost a necessary evil. Yes, he was cruel, but maybe that's what it took to conquer the frontier because you had so many unhinged men in the wild, wild West, or at least that's the message I was getting from his stories and his performance. So while it's grounded, it still excels in that manner. And I don't really like too many Westerns anyway. So I think that should say a lot about Unforgiven, that I found it so good. And of course, at the end, we see all hell breaks loose. I don't want to bring any spoilers, but the backstory comes true. Overall, I thought it was a great success.
Yeah. Agreed. Quality film. Brian, any thoughts on?
I saw it once. Westerns aren't really my genre, so I don't really remember it all. But I remember it was good. I know it won some Oscars and it was a big to do.
Oh yeah,
it's not my genre. It kind of goes over my. I have to revisit. Sports, Western, our military films. That's my
not your niche.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Perfectly understandable.
How about you guys? Unforgiven fans?
I know I've been trying to get you to watch Unforgiven for a while.
I want to watch it. It's literally one of those movies that just never seems to come up when we have a free movie night.
Yeah, because it's the thing of it's like I've always wanted to do a revisit of the Man with No Name trilogy, and also basically Unforgiven as the technical part of that, but with Clint Eastwood. But just sadly, it has been a while since I've watched Unforgiven, and it's one I would, especially now, like to revisit. And so definitely don't really have much more to add that hasn't been said here without having a more fresher impression of it on my mind.
The Eastwood Westerns, there was only a trilogy?
There were more than that.
The Note Man.
Yeah, directed by Sergio Leone.
There's only 3 of them there, but he did a
But they
couple.
weren't meant to be a trilogy, by the way.
Okay.
They just became a trilogy by American distributors. That's
Right.
I have to see those. I have to watch them.
They're really good. They're some of the best. And I will talk a little bit more about them later.
Maybe we'll do a little retro review of those at some point.
Ooh, they're great.
All right, so we are into the 90s. After Unforgiven, Hackman did The Firm, where this was probably he's been doing these like shady politician lawyer types for a while now. But at this point, it was him toe to toe with Tom Cruise. It was pretty good.
That's right.
Chemistry there, from what I remember. It's been a while though since I've seen it, but
Likewise.
I may have to revisit that. It's on Paramount Plus, along with some other Hackman films.
Good book.
Oh yeah, John Grisham.
I mean, I love The Firm, but I thought it was very entertaining. Definitely something I would catch on television if it was on.
Yeah, it's one of those types.
I think the end was weak. I liked everything that was
Yeah, the
going
ending
on.
was definitely.
Wait, don't spoil the end.
Well, I just said it was weak. No
Yeah,
details.
that's
No
it.
details.
Yeah.
I liked everything else though.
Yes.
Yeah, everything was fine. Definitely had a strong cast. That's what made the film for me.
Interesting. So leading up to Erica's choice, we had Unforgiven in 92, then in 93 he did Geronimo, an American Legend. He did Wyatt Earp in 94, and now in 95 he did another Western, Erica's The Quick and the Dead. It's your pick.
Yes,
go.
95 was a big year for him, but starting off with The Quick and the Dead, I am a fan of it. He is the villain, and it is just a movie about the town. It's a cast of all kinds of people who arrive here. And no spoilers, but I think the title is a spoiler. Everyone is going to die if you're not quick. Sorry, everyone. I'm not going to ruin the ending, but one by one, we're going to kill everyone off. Leonardo DiCaprio is so fun in it. You actually don't notice Russell Crowe, who plays one of the main characters. He is so young and he doesn't sound like him at all. And that's sort of funny when you look at who he is now. But one of, oh, I forgot his name. One of the people who I know more for his voice work than for his acting plays one of the.
Yeah.
Keith David.
Yeah.
Yes. He is also there. He's actually hired by the town to try to kill off Gene Hackman's character because he is so evil. And we're watching it through all these characters telling their version of the story. And it's about this backstory that we don't understand until the very end about what happened that Gene Hackman did when he arrived in this town at the very beginning. But I like the editing. I like the zooms. I like the montaging. I like the characters, and you even at times want to root for Gene Hackman. I'm going to give one spoiler. There's this one character, Ace, who is actually more horrible and more evil than him. He's a trick shooter. And he just is like, okay, you're worse than me. And he just annihilates him, shooting him down slowly before he actually will shoot him dead. And it's just the way they tell the story just makes you at times think maybe he's not that evil.
What do you say? I heard you shot a little girl's thumb off in Tulsa.
Yes. I wasn't sure if that's a spoiler. I wasn't going to say what he does.
Thumb.
But yeah, he just does these crazy shots with small children holding up cards right next to their heads.
Classic. Amazing cast. Yeah, Lance Henriksen with the long hair and the mustache.
Yes. And Sharon Stone and Russell Crowe, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Gene Hackman, and all the little people who are just sort of in it, blind, and then the blind kid who walks around through it and is sort of like your link between them all.
Even
I don't know if it was played by anyone who grew up to be famous, but
with the blind boy.
yes.
He looked very familiar. I don't know his name.
No, that was what. But when you look at it, he's not anywhere on the top billing, and so I can't find him because I don't know what his character's name is.
Yeah.
But it's definitely worth watching to get to the end to find out what that final showdown is going to be and how we're going to get to that final moment, because maybe it's a little cliche, maybe it's a too Western where they just stand there facing each other slowly waiting to shoot. But I think it's a great movie and totally worth the build-up.
And you forgot to mention the main highlights, Sam Raimi as director.
Yes.
Who did a great job, his first and his only Western, I believe. And he just utilized his great cinematic style to this genre, which is brilliant.
And also great use of the set design.
Costumes.
They're on there and between walking back and forth. It's just such a limited amount of space, but he makes it work playing out from all the different angles.
Yeah. Ernest, I know everyone here is pretty much a fan of the movie, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Oh yeah,
I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it. Okay. It's all good.
100%.
Check it out. Check it out.
I swear, it's
Have you seen
that
Quick and
Gene
the
Hackman's
Dead?
character, Unforgiven,
Yeah.
transitioned over here into the Quick and the Dead almost. I swear.
Yes.
and is more sinister than he ever was in Unforgiven, like very more obvious about his villainous role, which he's having fun playing. You could just tell
Yeah.
he's
He announces he's the villain in his very first scene. When they do it, just slowly watching him walk in. When first you only hear the sound of his spurs, and then you see his walking into the tavern, saloon type place until they finally pan up to him.
The match with the cigar, the close
Hmm.
sound. It's
Mhm.
great.
Well, if I may add to the film, this was one of the films that critics were very mixed on during its release. Even Siskel and Ebert gave it a thumbs down. And quite frankly, I can understand where they're coming from because it is predictable who's going to live and who's going to die.
I don't know.
There are a lot of cliches, but what I love about it is, and I think what the film was really going for, is it's paying tribute to those cliches from spaghetti westerns and also
Exactly.
making a revisionist western. Just picture the man with no name. Instead of being played by Eastwood, it is played by Sharon Stone. And I think all the characters in this film are very fascinating. Characters I want to learn more about, given all their backstories, their history, their personalities.
I'm not sure about that. I love the fact that we don't have to get bogged down with their backstories. That each characters are so distinct and so individualized, and yet we don't have to get bogged down too much with their backstories. Apart from Sharon Stone's character, most of the others are there just for us to care about and watch go through the cliche of it.
Exactly. And I love, like you said, I love that they don't tell us too much about them, but just enough for me to think, these sound like interesting characters. I wish they had their own spin-off film leading up to the event.
Instead of
And on top of it, Sam Raimi, he's using all of his camera tricks from Evil Dead and bringing it to this Western, as well as the humor and the camp value, which is what I really appreciate. And when critics say that the story is typical cliche, well, spaghetti westerns like Fistful of Dollars or Django, the original, they were cliche too, and yet they were about style, they were about camp, they were about having a bit of this epic quality. That's what this film feels like to me. Maybe not so much on the epic side, but definitely on the fun, stylized spaghetti western camp value side. Just with more of Sam Raimi's fingerprints all over it that we get from the Evil Dead films.
Now, I'm sorry.
I hadn't seen the film, but I do remember when you mentioned how the critics were towards it because it could just be like a Sharon Stone thing that they just had to after she did, of course, she's known for Basic Instinct, but it's like anytime she did something else, critics would automatically like shut it down.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, there was a thing. There was definitely something a thing.
Even with Casino, because they praised her for Casino.
She was praised for it, yeah, but they always sort of brought it back to, oh, it was a shock. Oh, she could do this, that was that type of thing. So it was just, anytime she would do something outside of her usual thing, her wheelhouse, it was like, oh well, it's a stretch or whatever. So yeah, I remember that, but I do want to see it because I am a Sam Raimi fan and I like his. I remember his style.
It's worth your time.
Yeah,
it's really great that he brings that to the Western genre.
Yeah, even if you're not like a big Western fan, if you like Sam Raimi's work, you'll definitely find a lot of entertainment value from this movie.
Well, I'm a big Darkman fan.
Oh,
so
yeah,
it's a revenge tale.
It's not a really smart movie, but it's well made,
right?
Stylized,
right?
I think it's smarter for not in terms of story, but for what it pays homage to.
Right.
That's what I think where the intelligence lies.
Maybe
I mean, I could even see this being a film directed by Tarantino years and years later.
See that,
just for how exaggerated and exploitative it can be at times.
There was another Western involving a female lead that's the gunslinger a year prior, 1994, called Bad Girls.
Oh yeah,
Bad Girls is slightly different though, but
but it's in that vein.
Is it any good?
Not really.
I was gonna say it's sort of gonna be bad.
I think they just had their anniversary. It was Drew Barrymore, right?
Andy McDowell
and just to mention, you mentioned the star-stellar cast. There are a few people that even I forgot, but I just remembered. Were Robert Blossoms is in the film, aka Old Man Marley from
Home Alone. Right.
Pat Hingle, aka Commissioner Gordon from Batman, he's in the film.
Right.
He plays the bartender.
I even forgot that Toby and Bell was in the movie, aka Jigsaw. Tobin Bell, excuse me.
Yeah. He played one of the first victims. Right?
Mhm.
Yes.
Quick and the Dead. You guys are a fan?
Well, I was gonna say I know with when it comes to westerns, unfortunately, Rachel
I have not
has
seen
not. I've
it.
not, and
But I really want to now.
yeah, so
Now hearing the premise of it, I'm very interested.
I know I brought it up again because of the Sam Raimi, so I would just add it to the long
Yeah,
list
and
of
I love Sam Raimi. So
long
that's
list of westerns.
several things I very much enjoy, and that cast sounds really stacked.
Mhm.
So
Definitely.
Cool. Okay, and now it's up to me for Crimson Tide.
It's quite a
All
run.
right.
It's quite a run.
Yeah, it's quite a period of time for Mr. Hackman.
Mm-hmm.
1995 was a good year,
Yeah.
and 96 as well. So 95, we saw the war thriller, actually. It's a submarine thriller called Crimson Tide, and it is directed by the late, great Tony Scott, produced by Jerry Bruckheimer, and it stars Denzel Washington as the second in command of a submarine, which is commanded by Gene Hackman, who's the captain of the ship. And basically, they are sent into, well, they're sent to check out a potential war situation regarding the Soviet Union at the time, Russia, and basically there's a lot of tension, and they basically get an order to launch missiles, but they don't know if it's an actual order. It's like a fragment of an order, so they don't know if it's legitimate. So basically, Hackman and Denzel are butting heads throughout the film, and they don't know whether they're going to start World War III or not. And it's a very tense, really good thriller. Great performances from both. You could really see these two acting giants, like they're basically sparring through their dialogue back and forth, their mannerisms. These are two Oscar-winning actors who are going toe-to-toe, and it's really wonderful. You've got one of Hans Zimmer's greatest scores. He won a Grammy for the album, and it's on Prime Video. So, I mean, all I have to say is just see it. So, Ernest, thoughts on Crimson Tide?
Yeah, I'll say this. It's to their great credit, both the cast, but mainly Denzel and Gene Hackman, that they take such a simple idea and are able to stretch it for a full-length movie. But because of the morality debates, the great acting and the dialogue, it's still compelling. You know, even though again it's a simple idea, but I find that the movie has longevity, and then by the time it's over with all the resolutions, you're just happy about everything and the way things transpire.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
love the finale. That's one of my favorites
Yes.
of any movie.
yes,
I
yeah,
won't spoil that.
yeah.
Honestly, I feel Gene Hackman and Denzel Washington are what really carry the movie. Not to say the film doesn't have a strong supporting cast of actors like James Gandolfini, the actor who played C in A Bronx Tale. I can't think of his name at the moment, but he
Oh,
was the
yeah.
older C. And
Cologero, right?
yeah,
Cologero?
yeah, Colangelo.
Yeah, yeah.
And Viggo Mortensen. Everybody's playing their role brilliantly. But what I love about the characters, the two main characters, is they're very complex. Like they have different ideologies, but they also have within reason. Like I love that Gene Hackman particularly is not a warmonger, but there is a theme about do we act now? Do we act later? When is the appropriate time? And I
Right.
love the whole psychology of it. I actually enjoyed the psychology of the film more than I did the actual thrills. Like, you know, everything around the submarine about to sink, you know, them getting closer to a submarine. It feels very been there, done that, in my opinion, like very standard. It's not that it's not entertaining. It just feels very typical. And I didn't really feel that much of the stakes. And it is obvious they're not going to go into World War III, but at the same time, you want to know how they get there. How do they make their way to it? I feel like the conflict between the two is what makes it worth seeing.
Right, it's the conflict.
Exactly. And yeah, I also love Hans Zimmer's score. I love how subtly claustrophobic the film is. Do I love it like a lot of people do? No, but I do think it's a really good war submarine movie. Definitely worth checking out.
They've compared it to saying it's a Hunt for Red October meets 2001: A Space Odyssey.
I don't know about 2001: A Space Odyssey,
Yeah.
but
Interesting.
Yeah.
it's an interesting analysis nonetheless. And also another thing I love that makes these characters feel so real, particularly the crew, is the dialogue.
Oh, sure.
Like they're not just like these serious one-dimensional characters or stock characters that feel very stereotypical. They actually feel like actual humans. And I love hearing them talk about Star Trek, Silver Surfer. Which, by the way, that kind of dialogue was provided by Quentin Tarantino, as a matter of fact.
You know, I was literally just about to say that. He contributed some lines of dialogue.
And I feel like he adds to the believability of these characters from the dialogue he did contribute. And you can catch on that. It's
there are some lines I definitely, oh, that does sound like Tarantino.
Exactly.
I'm not going to give it away.
No, of course.
It's a little rated R. It's, you know.
Well, yes,
it works.
actually, yes.
But just a really strong film overall.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get over
really good.
The two of them together in the same room, like 3 feet away from each other. Just like you could feel the intensity in every scene they're in.
It's almost as if you think Denzel is sort of using Hackman as his template, his career template. Because as we're describing some of Hackman's roles, I'm like, hey, Denzel's played like a coach here, and he's done that sort of thing. Like, he's sort of becoming.
The new Hackman?
Yeah.
There are parallels.
There are parallels.
That's a really good point.
Like, I could see him going to his agent and say, I'm not going to read this script. Give me the script that Hackman would do. and that's how you carve a career.
Well, Denzel, he's done some villains here and there, but not as many as Hackman. That's for sure.
True, yeah.
But I could see him doing doing like a Crimson Tide reboot or something, flipping it. So he's the seasoned, grumpy old captain instead.
Wouldn't that make it more like a sequel?
Here we go again, Crimson Tide.
Maybe a sequel.
I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I was about to point out the Hunt for Red October point. And it seems like it was a pattern in the time, the submarine genre of the killer.
Agreed.
Yes.
Agreed.
But I can see what you're saying with the Denzel Washington. Like I was saying, if they could make it at this point where pretty much he's now the jaded older guy and they need someone young to play a new, younger version type person. But overall, the movie can get a little slow at times.
Yeah.
True.
That's my only complaint. But in the end, it does pay off.
Yeah, it's a strong film.
It's a strong,
It's a lot better than K-12, The Widowmaker, the Liam Neeson, Harrison Ford submarine one.
Yeah.
Not great.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
You know.
I think Harrison Ford had a Russian accent in that.
He tried.
Yes, he did try.
He tried to have a
Try being the key word.
Yes.
Yeah, most definitely.
All right. So Crimson Tide is currently on Prime Video. Check it out, guys. It's awesome. Next up, we have Get Shorty, which is just a fun one. And the plot is I'm a little foggy on the plot. It's been a while for me, but basically it's a sort of a crime thriller comedy set in Hollywood.
That's right.
With a very, really strong cast. You've got John Travolta, Rene Russo, you got Hackman, Danny DeVito, James Gandolfini, Delroy Lindo, and it goes on and on. It's fantastic. It's directed by Barry Sonnenfeld, who did the Addams Family movies from the 90s, the Men in Black trilogy. And
was it Elmore Leonard based on Elmore? It was like an Elmore Leonard story or book, perhaps.
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, all right, a little research, but it's just it's a fun crime. I guess I wouldn't say maybe caper is not the right word, but
caper type.
Yeah, it's just a quality crime comedy, and this was 1 year after
Elmore Leonard, Scott Frank.
Oh, really? Oh, there you go. It's 1 year after Pulp Fiction, so this is like the height
That's what it was,
of John Travolta's renaissance. And I think this was his first movie after Pulp Fiction. So this is like a big deal for Travolta.
And it's kind of meta, not meta, but it's at that vibe. Like everyone's yeah. Like,
and Hackman plays kind of this sleazy Hollywood director, producer who gets embroiled in this plot. And Dennis Farina
is scheme than a plot.
Yeah. It's what?
I said I think it's more of a scheme than a plot.
Oh, forgive me. So yeah, it's just a quality film, and I think I need to revisit it. So yeah,
I want to see it.
Oh, you never seen it? Okay.
Especially it's lighter than certainly lighter than Crimson Tide. It's sort of going back into the comedic.
It's weird that he followed this. He needed like a break.
I think he likes. Yeah, I think he was doing that.
That's funny. All
but
right.
That's just looking at this list. It's like we're going to be here for a bit. This
is very meaty right here. Yeah. So this is the mid-90s right now, and Hackman is like
his agent. Who was that?
He's going strong. All right, so 96. Rachel, you are up with The Birdcage.
Okay, so The Birdcage is another comedy pairing of Gene Hackman and director Mike Nichols. They previously worked together on Postcards from the Edge. The plot of the movie is that Armand Goldman and Albert, they Armand owns a drag club in Florida, and Albert, his longtime partner, is the star of the drag club. Um, Armand has a son that Albert has also kind of become a mother to, and who is now grown and has recently gotten engaged to a senator's daughter. And the senator happens to be very conservative, kind of seems like it's playing a bit off of like a George H.W. Bush or like a Bob Dole or like kind of from that era of the moral majority. Um, the type of guy that would like to go on TV and rail about family values. And Diane Wiest plays his wife in this. Gene Hackman, his role in this, it's funny because he's playing kind of the straight man in the story, like the puns intended all over the place. um, but but he's so deliberate about the comedic choices that he makes here because as a straight man you're not necessarily going to be getting like the obvious big laughs. This is not like Nathan Lane's character is very big, very flamboyant, gets a lot of like great moments for laughs, whereas Gene Hackman, his probably biggest laugh in the whole movie is him giving this extended monologue about driving through the United States and about the leaves changing. And Nathan Lane was actually on Stephen Colbert's show just recently to talk about Gene Hackman after his death. And he said it's such a brilliant performance because he is both boring and also hilarious in this moment. And that's not something that any actor can do. Like most actors cannot do that. But he just gets these very beautiful, like restrained deadpan responses to things that happen. Like the response when he finds out that not only is Albert, in fact, a man, but also that it's Goldman, not Coleman, that his immediate response is, wait a minute, you can't be Jewish.
That's my favorite
And,
one.
yeah. And I know that for Gene Hackman, this was actually a very significant role for him because he said that this character is so very against like what he is as a person and his own personal values. And he said that for him, it was a very big stretch to kind of put himself into the role of such a restrained person and such a repressed person. And for a lot of people, and especially for the gay community, this was a very big deal that someone this A-list and also someone this kind of seen as masculine and seen as like traditional Hollywood would put himself in a movie like this. There's actually a really great piece for The Advocate. Let me just give the title of it so that listeners can look this up. It's an article by John Casey. Gene Hackman's Senator Keeley in the Birdcage hinted at the facade behind conservatism. And it really does a great job of contextualizing Gene Hackman's place in Hollywood, especially the fact that he was a former service member and that this movie would have come out in a time when obviously Don't Ask, Don't Tell was still in place. So again, as someone that is seen as a traditional masculine Hollywood man, not only being in this movie, but also being willing to be in drag in this movie was a really astounding thing.
Agreed. Yeah, quite a performance.
100%. And mind if I add something? I'm glad you mentioned that Gene Hackman had trouble playing the role for how conservative his character is, because one thing I forgot to mention when talking about the French Connection is he too had a hard time playing Popeye Doyle, not just for how physically demanding it was, but also when portraying the more racial side of his character. He had a lot of trouble doing those scenes. So
Wow.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. Oh, and also because Mike Nichols, his background is so much in improv, I thought it would. This story is great from the set of The Birdcage. When they're doing the scene, I could have danced all night, and Nathan Lane and Gene Hackman are dancing together. There's a throwaway line that Nathan Lane actually improvised that he says, "I was Eliza Doolittle in high school," and Gene Hackman, without missing a beat, replies, "I bet you were wonderful."
No, I bet you were lovely.
Lovely. Yes, yes, you were right.
Love
Yes.
that line.
Yeah.
What a great movie overall. Not just for Hackman, but everybody involved.
Oh, absolutely.
Even Hank Azaria as the manservant.
Mm-hmm.
Houseman.
Yep. But that's how I also learned that Nathan Lane, apparently his favorite actor of all time is Gene Hackman. And he said, I told him every day on set, I told him, I love doing this. Can you tell me about doing the conversation? And he apparently at one point he said, I loved scarecrows. And he goes, wait a minute, you love you love that movie? Apparently he was quite surprised by that. So
Great movie.
That warms my heart
that's so
to hear
cool.
this.
Great talent overall.
And this was a remake of a French film, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
La Caja Falls. I have not seen that. Has anyone here seen it?
I haven't seen either.
Excerpts.
I have a long time ago.
I really want to give that a view because I saw The Birdcage first, and since I love the film so much, I do owe giving the original a view and judging it on its own standards.
True.
But yeah, Birdcage, solid cast. Robin Williams and Nathan Lane, great duo. I wish they did more films together. Gene Hackman, phenomenal. And again, what I also noticed about the film is, I don't know if anybody else notices, but there's a lack of a soundtrack in this movie, which I really admire.
I mean, there's a song track.
Right, it's a song track, but you don't hear much of a score or any score. Like, I love how a lot of scenes in the film are very silent. It lets the comedy from the actors do the expressing rather than the music aiding the actors to make it funny in case if it wasn't funny, like almost like a forced laugh track. So I'm really glad of that little detail after revisiting it after so many years. And also, I only saw the television version of it growing up. So this was my first time watching it uncut and seeing it the way it was meant to be. Even with Hank Azaria's revealing wardrobe in one scene. They used digital technology on television to hide that. They even announced that in the special features during the bumpers.
Yeah.
So this was a great watch. And my friends loved it too. I was watching with friends who never seen it before. They're part of the LGBTQ community and they had the time of their lives watching it.
This is the perfect party movie. Like, you put this on with a group of people. Like right now, we could literally just play it right now and have a great time.
Exactly. It's a fun movie.
It holds up. Yeah, it's from '96 and it's still like fresh and funny to this day. It's wonderful. And I think it's one of Robin Williams' like more subdued performances.
Yes.
Really?
It was really mostly Nathan Lane that
Yeah.
shines.
Well,
He's
yeah,
like-
but it also was shocking that he could do such a role because I feel like it was right after Mrs. Doubtfire, where everyone expected him to be the one all elaborately dressed up, and yet he was the character that had a totally different role, and it was so Nathan Lane.
Yeah.
And also Nathan Lane was still in the closet when he did that movie. He never revealed he was gay when he was making the film. So that makes it even more interesting.
Interesting. All right, guys, let's move on. So we have some more like political thrillers, it looks like, some dark thrillers here where Hackman plays some unsavory characters. Extreme Measures, The Chamber, Absolute Power, Twilight, which I don't think I've seen any of these, but
Not to be confused with the other
heard of them.
He was working well,
he was consistent. So I want to just fast forward a little bit to 1998. We have one of my all-time favorite animated films, Ants, which is I think it was the first or one of the first DreamWorks animated films.
I think so.
And it's just a fun movie about an ant, a neurotic ant. Voice is portrayed by Woody Allen.
Wouldn't this be after Anastasia, though?
What?
Wouldn't this be after Anastasia?
This was I think a year after Anastasia, or the same year.
But DreamWorks didn't make Anastasia.
No,
It was
no.
Fox.
Right.
But
there was also Prince of Egypt was also.
Yeah, I was wondering if
yeah.
But it was their first CG.
Same year.
Yeah.
Same Ants.
Okay.
They're both 98.
I think
Okay.
it was their first computer graphics in their first season.
Yeah.
Oh, so that was a fun movie.
That before Bug's Life was
It
Ants
was
before.
it was during the same
Same
time.
year.
Oh wow!
There's a-
Yeah.
There was a big
Yeah.
competition
You know,
going on
there's always
between.
two scripts going around.
I
Well,
see.
no, 1998 was notorious for doing two movies that had the same plot. They did the same year they did Deep Impact and Armageddon.
Ah,
Yeah.
Both, giant asteroids, destroying the Earth, and let's send an oil drill team to save the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, good time.
Was that the two volcano movies, or was that earlier?
Oh, Volcano and Dante's Peak.
Dante's Peak.
Yep. Mhm.
Same plot. That's weird. All right. So 98, he did another movie that year, Enemy of the State, which is a little more of a mainstream action thriller where Will Smith plays an attorney who gets caught up in this plot, which involves the death of I think some politician. And it's got a great cast. It's got Hackman in a supporting role, a role that actually mirrors his role in The Conversation. Both are like surveillance experts slash spy.
Well, I was gonna say, like, Enemy of the State is very much in line with the rise, especially in the late '90s, of the weird obsession we had with the conspiracy theorist hero, of where no, the conspiracy theorist actually had everything right the entire time. The government is listening in on everything. The government is involved in all the cover-ups, and so he's the big, I know all the secrets, and I'm like and having to save Will Smith from evil John Voight and the NSA listening people trying to take him down.
And I must say the NSA agents, they're all a group of young people.
Yes, because you got Jack Black in there. You had
Jack Black.
I think was Seth Green. Was he one of
Seth
them?
Green's in there, Jake Busey,
Yeah.
Scott Khan.
Hackers, right?
Yeah, they're all like tech savvy.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's such a it is such a it's such a Brockheimer, everybody screaming, everything going at 5,000 miles per hour, and all wrapped up in it's the thing I haven't seen the movie in a while, but as far as like just one of those, like I said, like just a train off the rails thriller, I remember really enjoying it. I have no idea if I would still, but yeah, it's definitely. I remember Hackman and Will Smith being actually really good together.
Yeah, Jamie Kennedy,
Yeah,
Jason Lee. Yeah.
all wrapped up in a wow, that was convenient little ending twist.
Yeah.
Yeah, John Voight was pretty sinister, I must say.
Yeah.
And also the score was really good. It was by two of Hans Zimmer's students, Trevor Rabin and Harry Gregson Williams.
Oh,
Really?
If anything, what I feel like it highlights, I think, especially like when you're like looking at Hackman's career, when we're doing this kind of decade by decade, it shows that one of the strength, what we were always talking about is the versatility, the fact that when you look at each of these eras, you see Hackman being in something that was kind of that era, whether it's like with French Connection being of kind of this new neo-noir, more of the morally gray heroes, or maybe in the 80s with Hoosiers, where we need more down-to-earth kind of walk of life people, or even the comedians, or even here we are, the Brockheimer, fast-paced 90s.
Or the DreamWorks animated movie that's stacked with like this insane alien cast.
Or even like, the West, here we have the kind of the Westerns kind of on their way out with Clint Eastwood, or even Quick and the Dead. And it's the fact that he was able to always find himself in each one of these and able to be so iconic in each of these eras that no matter what was the trend of that moment, that he was able to be so well in those trends. And I think that speaks volumes to Hackman's career, that he could constantly ride those waves.
And I don't even know if that's something you can plan, or if it was just he was getting he was just savvy enough to get the good scripts or read the
I think it speaks to his versatility, the fact that you could give him those ones,
100%.
and that he could keep reinventing himself to be in those roles.
Right. Yeah.
He adapted to every
Yeah.
Yes. brilliantly. I'd say perfectly.
Yeah.
Well, it's really no surprise. Look into it. He was also big on Broadway. He didn't shy away from Broadway either,
Mhm.
Right.
which also is more proof of his versatility.
Was he active on stage when he was at the height of his power?
Yes,
Yeah.
even more so. Still in the 70s.
Huh.
The 70s more so. Yeah.
Damn, he was so busy.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I feel like we could learn a lot about recreating the new Hollywood by revisiting all of his movies.
Oh, hey,
So.
that's what we're doing now.
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea at all.
Everything old is new, but maybe we can learn some things.
Yeah. So, all right. So we are now leaving the 90s. We're into 2000 and The Replacements, which that was a fun movie with Keanu Reeves.
Seen that, but I heard New York is New Yorking outside. I don't know if you can hear.
I don't know. I hope not. But who saw The Replacements? Because
I did.
I haven't
Okay.
seen, but I heard that was good. I heard
Yeah.
it was a funny movie.
It's a football comedy,
Yes, it is.
and Hackman coach.
Was it a remake of it?
Was it a remake? I don't
Yes,
even.
it was.
Was.
Yeah. I heard this. I heard
I didn't
this
know
was
that.
pretty good. Yeah.
It's also got Jack Warden in one of his final roles, if not his final. And so this is the home stretch here for Mr. Hackman.
Man, he had a career.
Yeah.
Certainly did.
Yeah.
All right. So the Mexican,
That's a fun watch.
that was a Julia Roberts, Brad Pitt romantic.
They have this awkward relationship, and it's sort of so awful that it's funny. Sometimes you can't you think that something's going to happen, and it's like, what is going to happen next? Is this just going to be, it's like, oh my God, it really did happen? And it still worked at times. I know that plenty of people give the Mexican a hard time. It's a little too cheesy, but I think it's a fun watch. And Gene Hackman is in it. I think Brad Pitt has a lot of that brings to it. Julia Roberts' character. I don't know I don't remember the name of the other guy who plays the enforcer, who has a lot of.
Gandolfini.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yes, he was.
It's been a lot of Hackman films.
Yeah.
Season Tide, Get Shorty,
Yep.
and this now.
Exactly. That's why I wanted to bring him into it, because I'm like, he did a lot of, but I didn't have his name. And thank you for that.
Yeah, I agree with Erica though. Its cheesiness is part of its charm. It's there by
Right.
design.
And Hackman has a very small part, or
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, his part's kind of small.
all
Yeah.
right. It's not 3 hours, so it's not like wasting your time.
No.
Okay, that's good. All right, check out the Mexican. I rewatched Heartbreakers
Kind of a silly
the other
paper
night. It's
comedy,
very
yeah.
silly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hackman has a small part in that as a billionaire who is basically being conned by a mother-daughter duo played by Sigourney Weaver and Jennifer Love Hewitt. And it's actually not that bad. It's a little long. It's over 2 hours for a comedy of that nature. I think it should have been shorter.
That is long.
Yeah. Danny Elfman did, I think, the theme
Mhm.
to that, and it's okay. He's got some great moments. Hackman, he's very good comedic timing in that. He's always smoking a cigarette and coughing. It's very, very funny. So okay, 2001. Wow, what a year for him. So after Heartbreakers, he did a really good David Mamet thriller called Heist.
Yep.
With Danny DeVito and again Delroy Lindo reuniting from Get Shorty. Very cool. And then he did not probably, but definitely the last great performance of his career, The Royal Tenenbaums, which is a Wes Anderson dramedy. It's a masterpiece, actually. It's one of his best, if not his best, about a neurotic family in New York City who have an estranged father who comes back into their lives, who basically starts trouble. And it's got an ensemble cast: Bill Murray, Angelica Houston, Ben Stiller, Owen Wilson, Gwyneth Paltrow, et cetera, et cetera. Luke Wilson. And yeah, just a great film. If you're a Wes Anderson, this is like top of the top. Really great film. And after that, he did Behind Enemy Lines, which I saw in theaters. I enjoyed. Also had Owen Wilson, but this time action hero, which I don't know how I feel about that. He was playing against type, and it was an okay film. Hackman played like this. I think Ernst, we were talking about this the other day.
Yes.
What's the plot again?
So the plot is basically Hackman and Owen Wilson are at odds. They have disagreements. Hackman is his commanding officer, and then he sticks him with a last minute assignment that he dreads. But then Owen Wilson gets into an accident, and then from there, even though Gene Hackman is not such a big fan of Owen Wilson's character, he does everything in his power to make sure he comes back because that's his job. And then by the end of the movie, a lot of things happen. I know I'm fast forwarding, but they win mutual respect for each other, and then so much so Gene Hackman jeopardizes his own job to get him back. And it's interesting to see because they start off so at odds. You think he'd never do it for him,
Right.
you know?
Crazy. So yeah, that's Behind Enemy Lines, and I remember it being okay.
Yeah, so far it's a solid film. Like we were mentioning Enemy of the State earlier, you know, how Gene Hackman took a back seat. He was more like in the conversation, more on the radio guiding Will Smith.
Right.
In this movie, he's guiding Owen Wilson. It's a similar thing, but a
Right.
change of scenery.
Gotcha. So Behind Enemy Lines, also on Prime Video right now.
Yeah.
And next up we have Runaway Jury, which is another John Grisham novel turned into a thriller film. This one is about a trial that's taking place, and basically Hackman plays someone who is like kind of a shadowy figure who's trying to influence the jury, who's trying to influence the trial. And it's got John Cusack, you've got Rachel Weisz. You also got a very small part from Jeremy Piven, which I was disappointed. I want to see more of him. Because
And the only time that Gene Hackman and Dustin Hoffman were in an on-screen role together.
That's crazy.
Wow.
That's wow. 40 years, and at the very end of his career, he does that. Well,
Yep.
better late than never.
Of course.
Yeah. Dustin Hoffman is fantastic in that. And there's this one scene where they're in the men's room, and it's a very heated interaction, and they're like almost out acting each other. It's like, who's better in this situation? It's so hard to tell, but they're both fantastic actors, and great scene.
Did we say at the start of the episode, 3 days ago? I'm kidding. That
What?
Dustin Hoffman and Gene Hackman were friends? Or
Yeah.
So they knew each other?
They were in, I think they were in the acting school, right, Rachel?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were roommates in New York.
Took them that long to, wow.
I think
That amazes me too, honestly.
I know. And Robert Duvall was also in that class, I believe. That's crazy.
Wild.
Yeah.
I got to know that teacher and the classmates got some kind of retribution.
I don't know. Probably not. But all right, so Runaway Jury, I recommend. That's on Paramount Plus right now, streaming. And now, sadly, his final film, this was 2004, and what an unfortunate way to go into the sunset. Welcome to Mooseport.
I don't think I saw this one.
This
Title sounds familiar.
it's not a terrible movie. Like it's watchable.
I agree.
It's kind of cute and funny here and there. Basically, Hackman plays a former president who comes to a small town for some event, and then he gets persuaded into becoming the mayor of this town, to run for mayor. And his opposing person in this town is played by Ray Romano. So you've got this everyman, kind of like, he's like a handyman in the town. He's running for mayor with this seasoned politician who's a lot smarter and a lot cooler than he is. And they're both in love with the same woman. So that adds some more tension to the proceedings. So
That's the weirdest part, isn't it?
sorry?
Isn't that one of the weirdest parts, that the love thing?
Yeah, well, Maura Tierney plays the love interest. She was
Yeah.
she was the love interest in Liar Liar. She was on
Yeah.
ER.
Yes.
And Hackman can easily be her father, if not grandfather, but that's another issue. But yeah, and I'm not a huge fan of Ray Romano personally, so I didn't think he was the greatest at helming a film. That's why it was really nice to see Hackman there to kind of save things.
You weren't a fan? He kind of looked like Seinfeld. I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, I never watched Everybody Loves Raymond.
I never watched it.
I'm not a fan of his humor, but welcome to Mooseport. That's his Hackman's final role. So if you guys are curious about that one, I think that is also streaming on Prime Video. So with that, I think that's about it for his career. We got through it.
Man, what a filmography.
I know.
What a career.
I would watch all of those movies, and I'm like inspired.
I know there's so
I
many.
feel inspired to see half of them at least.
Yeah.
Nice.
Definitely.
And I feel like one thing that it's crazy that we've gone through all this time. We've talked about the Oscars, we've talked about the awards, we've talked about all the performances, but the one thing we haven't talked about, the one thing that Gene Hackman, I think, was very skilled at, his mustache.
Agreed. Agreed.
Mhm.
Yeah, he had it throughout the 70s mostly.
Mhm.
Man could wear a good mustache.
Yeah.
Actually, it was actually when he was going to be Lex Luthor and Superman. They had difficulty convincing him to shave off his mustache,
Oh.
and it was already difficult enough where he's like, "No, I'm not going to shave my head. Well, you at least shave your mustache."
Yes. Glad he did.
So yeah,
That's right.
You don't
And-
even know him with a mustache. Now that I'm thinking, sure. I only know him clean shaven. I have to look at pictures now.
Yeah. Well, he had a goatee in Runaway Jury. That was pretty sinister looking. But yeah, he had a mustache throughout I think throughout the 80s. No.
it was
The Rest
definitely
of
it was
Bodies,
definitely
yeah.
it was random, but it was also I think of more Gene Hackman with a mustache in the 70s after
Right.
French Connection up to Superman.
Yeah, that's appropriate. Well, that was the period. That was like kind of the thing back then.
Yeah.
Like the handle, what do you call that? Handlebar mustache.
Mhm.
He had that in a few movies. It just fits sometimes.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, this was great.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Yeah. Does anyone have any plugs? Anything you want to talk about?
Not the
Projects?
I'll say this from Gene Hackman from the little research that I did. I found it interesting. He
Mhm.
said that just like when he went to that film academy, the Pasadena. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing.
Pasadena. Yeah.
Right. Him and Dustin Hoffman were both looked at as outcasts and misfits and such. Even when he went to New York, he said that most of the odd jobs that he was working, everyone was basically naysayers, telling him to quit, get a real job, you'll never make it, you're not anyone of prestige or special. He said that he tried to make those negative comments and attitudes into a positive, and it almost became like a competitive thing for him.
Okay.
And so it's really interesting to see it all just work out after he had so many doubters in his life.
Right.
That doesn't always happen, but it's a good message, I think, for everyone in any line of work that you do to just try and persevere. Although I know it's very hard. It's very hard.
That's true.
Absolutely.
He's a
Definitely
good he's a good example of working hard and succeeding.
Yep.
Because he had humble beginnings,
Mhm.
and he started. He just went up the ladder basically. Theater, TV, movies, Oscars. I mean,
He also got famous late, which is another thing
Yeah.
that's like, if you look statistically, there are people out there who break it down. It's a hard thing to do.
It is.
To get famous acting later in your life.
Yeah.
It's more so can happen when you're younger and more of like robust or attractive and such.
Right, exactly.
I think if
Crazy.
you look at
Unless
any,
you are too young and then you age out of it. But
True. That happens.
it's sad to see him go after decades of acting, and on a week that so many famous people did pass away. And so it's just good to look back on him and all the years of what he did. And it's sad to see so many of them pass away on that same week, like Michelle Trachtenberg, and I believe a few other actors did as well. So it's interesting just how many different roles he played.
Yeah,
What are
it's
the odds of all that? All in the same week.
I know.
All like 6-8 hours apart, each one after the other, they were dying.
but I think if you look at anyone who has had like a career like his, or anyone who's out there now, and you look at their origin stories, and it's the same thing. They had naysayers. They had people that were bullying, or telling them, "Oh, it's never going to work," and now who's laughing now? That type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lady Gaga had like
Yeah.
that type of thing going on with her career early on. So you never know. You have to really just keep going.
Keep going. That's right.
Yeah.
I wonder if he'll ever get a Lifetime Achievement Award. One of those things.
Hackman?
Gene Hackman.
Well, he got it at the Golden Globes, like maybe in 2000, 2001, they gave him one.
He did? Oh,
So
okay.
it was a life achievement, yeah.
Oh, all right, all right.
And
I
he
wasn't aware.
yeah, he was very gracious about it. He had the mustache.
Oh, he brought
He brought the mustache out for
Very
that.
good.
Nice.
I can't picture him with a mustache for some reason. I've seen a lot of his movies, and I only
It's easy to picture it, easier to picture without it.
Yeah, interesting.
It's his mood.
Oh yeah, well, I have a lot of movies to watch.
I know.
Watch it.
Yeah, I might watch The Firm tonight. I don't.
Mhm.
Grisham
What?
double feature.
Yeah, maybe. Well, all right, guys. I want to thank you. This is great.
Yeah.
Good tribute. Good send off.
Absolutely.
And it's just a shame that we had to do it this way after
Right.
such a tragedy that happened almost a month ago.
Right.
He I think his wife passed first, and then a week later he passed, and then the dog was also involved somehow. But I don't know. The dog was in a kennel in a closet, and I guess just
Yeah.
it's just horrible. I just hope that if he's watching down on us, if you believe that sort of thing, that he's happy and proud of what we did today.
He should be. He
I
should be.
think he
Quite an accomplishment. Not every actor gets to have such a filmography.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and this is just great. This is just a great opportunity to see some really amazing films. Scarecrow comes to mind right now after all of what we discussed. That is an amazing film.
He says that's his favorite role. I
Yeah.
think we should all watch it. I personally haven't seen it.
Check it
I
If
out.
that's
see
his
it.
favorite role, we should see
You
why.
should see it.
We should see why.
I would
It's
love
strong.
to.
It's
And I
very
think-
strong.
And I think especially as a way of looking back on, sort of that new era, that golden age of horror, not horror, sorry.
It's
that's
okay.
the golden, you can edit that. Golden age of Hollywood in terms of like, where the script was king and you had really good characters and it attracted actors of his caliber.
Yeah.
Especially now when we're looking into where the culture is going, are we losing that? There's a threat to
Mhm.
things going more towards AI and that lack of
Too much AI.
and I
Yeah.
think it's I'm a writer myself, and it's a way of like looking back at like the scripts that he was reading and that sort of that created
Yeah.
these roles. Now I want to go back and just revisit all that stuff and get
Mhm.
re-inspired.
Yeah.
And I'm glad
Yeah.
that stuff is around for younger filmmakers to be
I
inspired.
hope so. Yeah,
Yeah.
I really need that extra kick, to jumpstart the industry again.
Right.
Absolutely.
I love old Hollywood. I love old classics because there really is not a lot of originality out there. Like there's not enough
No.
Noras out there.
No.
It's too far and far between.
Yeah.
Or substances,
Or substances. Yeah.
Substances.
Or I'm still here.
which I have to see. I have to
Yeah.
check that
I
out.
would argue more so today's landscape, unfortunately, is more, since you mentioned substance, style over substance.
Yeah, that's
Where
all-
we see in the past, they tried to have a balance of both
Right.
for the appeal. But today it's just everything style over substance. It looks amazing, and that's all you need to know.
That's it.
Right.
And we disagree with that.
It's
Yeah.
sad. But yeah, I think from now on, I'm doing a lot more retro reviews because
Yeah.
there's so many great classics out there that are so underappreciated.
Yeah,
Ah, good one.
definitely. Yeah.
Go on.
Thank you. But we'll see. It's going to be an interesting future for the show.
Yeah. No, this was good.
Yeah,
This is amazing.
Mr. Hackman, rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Thank you for everything, all your art, beautiful art, and we're going to keep watching your movies forever. So thank you. All right, guys, I'm Randy Younger. This has been Under the Radar's tribute to Gene Hackman, one of a kind actor. We'll see you soon. Take care, guys.